All right, and we are live once again on our normal day,
Yeah,
normal
and
Saturday.
kind of around the normal time, normal day. This is nice.
Whoa!
Yeah, there you go. What's going on?
I am I am Jacob Barber. This is Austin Howell. This is a podcast about movies, um,
Hmm.
and yeah, I mean, as you could probably tell by the background and the title of the video, um, we're talking the Disney Renaissance, and this was actually Austin's idea, which was very surprising to me.
Well, here's the thing. It's a back and forth on this show. We like to do some shows that kind of involve both of us, but then hit some of our specialties every now and then. But you're nice enough to indulge me every now and then on doing like a horror franchise. Like we did the Scream thing, and I'm sure we'll do some other horror franchises. Occasionally. But no, I mean, this is one that's up my alley too, because I grew up with a lot of these movies, as did a lot of people who, were 90s kids. Um, Not every single one of these movies. We'll talk about it as we go. I kind of broke off at some point. You know what I mean? I'd seen all these before, but there's the certain ones that we owned on videotape that I wore out as a kid. But yeah, it's a subject it's really fascinating to talk about too, as far as where Disney was before this, and then kind of how they really owned the '90s and really cemented themselves as the kings of animation here, and really made a huge comeback, as we'll talk about. So it's just a fascinating subject in general, and then talking about these 10 movies that really had a big impact on a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure. I've watched each and every one of these movies multiple times.
Right.
Some more than others, some a lot more than others.
Hmm.
I'm sure that one's not going to be a surprise when we come to it. I've talked very
Well, I
highly
mean,
of these.
and it'll be interesting to see where we come because you're a little bit younger than me. So, to see like which ones maybe you came to as a kid or came to it, because it depends on also, I was born in '86. So I was right there for the beginning of the Renaissance as far as seeing a lot of
Mhm.
these theatrically and things like that. And as far as when you kind of came around when you were a kid, because some of them, I know ones that some of their favorites are the ones in the back half of the decade, because those are the ones they saw in theaters, the ones they first had on video or whatever the case may be. So it's always fascinating to see, depending on sometimes the age or when you kind of came into the Renaissance, which ones you connected with, and sort of grew up with, and really respected. So we'll talk about that. Yeah, but it should be an interesting discussion. We're not going to do like rankings. We might do we're going to do a tier ranker chart, as Jacob put together, a little tier ranker thing where we'll each submit a rate, like a grade for this, and then maybe come up with a consensus, and we might match on some of them. We'll see. But that'll kind of be our sort of ranking. But we're just going to go in chronological order, and then kind
Yeah,
of talk about each one just from the beginning to end, because we just want to do a discussion of the overall Renaissance and not so much like a ranking show. We're just going to do a
right.
discussion and kind of sort of rank them in between. You'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I like ranking stuff, but we're not gonna turn into one of those shows that like just ranks every every episode. Like we're just gonna talk about movies that we enjoy today. Um,
Hmm.
and so yeah, the Renaissance starts. See, I think a lot of people get confused. Like they call it the '90s Disney Renaissance. I hear that a lot.
Hmm.
Like with some of my friends, it's not. I mean, yeah, most of it's the '90s, but we're starting in 1989 with The Little
Yeah.
Mermaid. This is where it starts. Um,
Yeah.
and thank God for The Little Mermaid, because who knows what Disney could have looked like in the '90s if this wasn't a
Well,
success.
Well, and we could talk about that as far as like the lead up to the Little Mermaid, because there was a lot of things going on just when Disney in general, even before the Little Mermaid hit. Because we have to talk, and when we talk about Little Mermaid in '89, we have to kind of talk about where Disney was in the '80s, and in the '80s, Disney was struggling a little bit, which is why they call it the Renaissance in the '90s, because Disney was in trouble a little bit, because in 1981. There's a man who a lot of people know his name, and we talked about him a little bit last week when I talked about The Secret of Nim for 1982. Is a man named Don Bluth who started his own animation studio and had his kind of own classic animation style. The man who did The Secret of Nim, he did An American Tail, he did All Dogs Go to Heaven, a lot of these types of movies. So and he was real legitimate competition to Disney in the 80s as far as hand-drawn 2D animation, because he left actually, Jacob, in the middle of production on The Fox and the Hound, which
Oh
eventually
wow.
came out in 1981, and he took like a dozen or so animators with him. They left with him to go start their own independent studio, and were able to get backing. And they all left and worked on The Secret of Nim, and it came out. And while it wasn't the biggest success in the world, it was kind of a rejected Disney movie. Secret of Nim was because it was rejected for being too dark. As you know, if you've seen The Secret of Nim, it's a little bit of a darker movie. You know, it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's not as much of a colorful, flashy movie as some of their other stuff. But Bluth did that, came out with Secret of Nim. That was kind of the first thing. Michael Eisner, who would kind of become the head of the Renaissance, took over in '84, and his first feature when he was out was the Black Cauldron, which a lot of people point to as kind of one of their big failures. I don't know. Have you seen the Black Cauldron, Jacob? You
I have.
have any
I've seen
opinions
it
on
a
that one?
couple times.
Okay, I've
Um,
never actually sat down and watched the Black Cauldron. I need to, because I've heard interesting things about it. But are you a fan of it, or what do you think?
I I don't hate the movie, but it
Mm-hmm.
definitely doesn't have that Disney feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it kind of feels like a um like a secret in them. Like it's dark and it feels like it doesn't have that Disney feel to it, that Disney magic that you get from Disney movies, in my opinion, anyway. So
Sure.
I can see why some people would call it like a failure, as
Mm-hmm.
far as a whole movie, and I think it was a financial failure too. Like
It
it
was a
was,
financial critical failure kind of on both ends. It just did not make that much money. It was PG, which was unusual. A lot of the Disney movies and one we're talking about are all G rated. But yeah, it was a PG movie, a little bit darker. Yeah, and audiences just didn't connect with it. So yeah, it was kind of considered a failure. They were in a lot of trouble. And then Don Bluth was heating back up because in 1986, Disney at the beginning of the year came out with The Great Mouse Detective, which is actually a pretty good movie. I like The Great
yeah,
Mouse Detective
I think
overall.
it's great.
That's
Yeah.
but a couple months later, An American Tail, the Fievel movie, came out, produced by Steven Spielberg and made by Don Bluth, and it was a huge critical success and a big financial success. It was one of the highest grossing animated movies at the time, and really cemented Bluth as a legitimate, a competitor. Like his American Tail was a big deal. It had the Spielberg name attached to it. That was a real big deal. And at the time, also Disney wanted to diversify a little bit as a backup and started reviving their TV stuff. So a lot of the stuff that they got in the late 80s was kind of directly of their sort of desperation to try to get some more material out. So, but they came up with some stuff that stuck around that we're still talking about to this day, namely stuff like DuckTales, Chip and Dale, which just had a new movie come
Yeah.
out. As you just saw, still spin, Tailspin, Darkwing Duck, a lot of those things that we saw kind of in the late 80s, early 90s that are still kind of beloved to this day. So they were kind of getting a little bit going on TV. And then the next film, there was another standoff. On the same day, Jacob, in 1988, you get literally the same release day, Oliver and Company versus The Land Before Time, which is a
Mm.
crazy day. So now, Land Before Time obviously was Bluth, Oliver and Company was Disney. Both critical hits, both financial hits. Land Before Time was a bigger global hit. It did very well internationally. Movie about dinosaurs did pretty well, as you can imagine overseas. But Oliver and Company made more money in the U.S. So they were still, but they both made a lot of money, still competitive. But Disney took the lead again with a little movie when they made a deal with Warner Brothers on a little movie called Who Framed Roger Rabbit, which is a big giant hit.
That was pretty good.
Just a pretty good movie. A pretty good movie. Yeah, that had Oscar nominations and made a ton of money, like one of the highest grossing movies that year. And Disney was a big part of that. But yeah, and then that's kind of, so they're going back and forth. And even again, there was still competition even with this movie we're talking about right here, The Little Mermaid, on the same day. Once again, I don't know what it was with the same release days. Maybe it was just a kind of a thing just to see who had it. Little Mermaid releases on the same day as All Dogs Go to Heaven. So same release
Ooh.
day, same thing. But Little Mermaid would emerge the bigger victor, as it would become a monster hit, a monster
Yeah.
hit. And this would really kind of begin the Renaissance as we know it. So just a little background to kind of where we were leading up to this movie, The Little Mermaid.
Yeah. So obviously, I didn't see Little Mermaid when it came out because I wasn't alive.
I did. I think my earliest movie memory, Jacob. I think when I was 3 years old, my earliest movie memory might be The Little Mermaid. I have a
Okay.
vague memory of sitting in the theater, seeing. Remember the final scene where Triton makes like the rainbow with his trident, and like the ship going off. Like that's one of my earliest movie memories in the theater. So I'm pretty certain I either saw it in '89 or in '90 because a lot of times these movies would hang around the theater for like 6 months. I mean, they were
Mm.
just they around. These movies were hits. They had legs. Movies back then, especially kids movies, would just last in theaters for a long time. So, yeah, I think it's one of my earliest theatrical memories is The Little Mermaid.
Oh, nice, nice. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, I was a little later to this one. I did
Mm-hmm.
not watch it. I don't have like any childhood memories of watching this one. I do have childhood memories of watching some of these others. Um, but as I was getting a little older and as I was appreciating animation, because I'm a pretty big animation fan,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to go back and watch the classics, and this one is you know very very highly thought of.
Oh yeah,
It's some people's favorite Disney movie,
yeah.
and for good reason because
Yeah.
it is a really really good movie. Um, just the story about Ariel. Um, she's very fascinated with the human world, and um, she's big imagination, and I think lots of kids can connect to that. Like she's just got this imagination about the world, and she wants to go explore, and she wants you know to be with the humans. She wants to explore, and um she falls in love with the human. That's the only. Okay, I'm gonna go off on a tangent. The only thing I don't like about Disney movies is that they fall
Yeah.
in love so quickly.
Oh yeah,
Like,
like a couple of days.
yeah, or even just
Yeah.
saving someone, and she's like, "Oh my goodness, I love
Mhm.
Eric now." It's
Right.
like but I understand it's a kids movie, and I'm not gonna
Well,
harp on it
and
too much.
like an 8 minute movie. I mean, what are you gonna do? Watch them go out for a month? You know what I mean?
Right,
Like your every date. I mean, you gotta do this whole love at first sight thing, and kind of
yeah,
this infatuation. Kind of, it's one of those things where they meet in the beginning of the movie, and by the end of the movie, they're like married or whatever, or together. You know what I mean?
right.
They're where we just go all the way. So, but it also, I think, it might make an impression on girls in life that this will happen, and that you can just fall in love with somebody instantly, and you'll be married that quickly and live happily ever after. It might set their expectations a little too high, for like girls of the real world. But yeah, I mean that's the thing that we see a lot. But I think the more through lines that we see in a lot of these movies, as we'll talk about, is these ideas of these, especially the women. A lot of these movies wanting to be independent,
Mhm.
wanting to kind of break out of a system or break out of a thumb that they're under a rule of, in some kind of hierarchy. Just wanting to kind of be their own person, or you see somebody that's, or even just a protagonist doesn't necessarily have everyone who's sort of overprotected or kind of hidden away from the real world, or being told that they can only go so far. There's things we don't want you to see, or there's things, the world is scary, sort of thing. So that's what we see a lot of in these movies, and it's a theme that'll kind of prevail as we kind of talk about a lot of these movies.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, I think it also we see the because I can't think of any big ones from the previous movies, but they really start like the sidekicks.
Mm-hmm.
Really just coming up with memorable sidekicks like Sebastian and Flounder, in the
Mm-hmm.
Little Mermaid specifically. like just good side characters to complement really good main characters.
Mhm.
I see the argument that no, Ariel's just kind of a spoiled little girl, and when things don't go her way, she just kind of doesn't listen to her dad. And I'm like, yes, but at the same time, she wants to be independent. She is and Sebastian kind of understands that. Like, no, you can stay down in the sea and be miserable for the rest of your life. Okay.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And again, it's she's starting to realize, becoming an older woman, that she's heading for we talk about it. We're going to talk about life movies, a predestined life. You know what I mean? A life that is going to be kind of determined for you. I'd imagine if the events of this movie didn't transpire, Ariel would have been married off to a prince merman or something. You know what I mean?
Right.
As a and she would have become some kind of queen, or she would have had some kind of arranged relationship with some merman. And a life of again this sort of royal hierarchy, because she's the daughter of a king. So, and it's funny, we never see a queen Triton? Like,
No,
so that's the one thing I've always
single dad.
wondered. So it's Triton, but where's the mom? It's never really mentioned. I don't know if they get
Yeah,
into that in the TV show. Where's the queen? Yeah, I don't know. Like, I guess there's probably theories out there. I'm sure if I Googled it, somebody's, maybe something from the TV show that's mentioned. I don't know, because they had a cartoon series for a while, or maybe one of the sequels. There's a prequel too, though, right? So maybe it's in that prequel movie. Isn't there like a
maybe.
young Ariel
I
movie, like Little Mermaid 2
yeah,
or
I
something? Um,
haven't watched it. I don't think I. No, I don't have that one. I just have Little Mermaid. But yeah, there's two sequels, and one of them might be a prequel.
there's the Little Mermaid Ariel's Beginning, released in 2008.
Okay.
It was a prequel direct-to-video movie, but I've always wondered, yeah, like where's Queen Triton? So
Right.
and what's going on there? And when that may be a thing, maybe she doesn't have a mother figure in her life. She's only had this father figure who, maybe has struggled to connect with his daughters, because he seems like he's got all daughters as well. He doesn't have any sons, so maybe he's frustrated in
No.
that aspect. He never had an heir, as far as a male, sort of heir to the throne. So maybe he's got some underlying frustration. There's a lot of things you can kind of read into it that are never really made completely clear. I mean, to be fair, the movie's like 78 minutes, so there's only so much they can get into. I mean, this is a quick one, man. You put this thing on and it's over before you know it. I can't believe every time I watch it how fast she's like washes up on the beach and is like running around with her legs. Like, I'm like, oh my god, we're here already. Like, it's insane, the pace of this movie. But yeah, it's a really good one. Like you said, they would kind of follow in a lot of these formulas, these 90s Renaissance, and not that it's a bad thing, but the formula of like the character doing these songs, kind of laying out the land, laying out the exposition of like what the character is kind of all about, or the lay of the city, or whatever it is, as we'll talk about in like Beauty and the Beast, kind of setting things up. There's always like a sidekick, character song, kind of a more comedic, sort of song, or a big
Mhm.
bombastic thing. There's a villain song, obviously a darker toned villain song in most of these movies that kind of gets all their motivations. Some kind of big action climax, and everybody lives happily ever after. I mean, there's definitely those beats that you see as far as in a lot of these movies, kind of those beat to beat to beat sort of things. But it was a formula that, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right, Jacob? I mean, a lot
Yep.
of these movies are
Yeah.
pretty good. They hit those beats, but it worked a lot. So I mean, we could talk about the similarities, but yeah, like you said, you got Ariel and King Triton and Ursula, who we haven't even talked about yet, voiced by Pat Carroll, who's amazing in this movie. I think
Oh,
she's
yeah.
awesome,
She-
and she was an older lady at the time. I met her when she was like 80 at a
Oh,
horror
wow.
convention, and people like fell in love with her. She was great. She did a video you can see online if you ever Google it. Google Pat Carroll Haunted Mansion. She was up on stage and somebody handed her some of the monologues from the Haunted Mansion ride at Disney, and she did them as Ursula, and it was great. It was perfect.
Oh,
So yeah, it was so perfect. But she still had the magic. I think she's great. Her song is one of my favorite villain songs. The Poor Unfortunate Souls is really great, and like a lot of people said, she's evil, but like she makes a fair deal. It's not like she didn't lay out exactly what she wanted right from the beginning.
right.
I
Yeah.
mean, like, she literally says like, "You give me your voice, you're gonna give me your voice." Like, that's in the contract. Like, and if you don't fall in love in 3 days, I get you. You know what I mean? Like, and it's she's like, you don't have to. I mean, she didn't have to sign it. She could have walked away. You know what I mean? It's like she made a business deal, and everybody else who's in her little layer made business deals that didn't work out. You know, so maybe she gets a bad rap. I mean, she's definitely doing shady business, but you know, still. It's not like you can't walk away and you know just back out of the deal. So yeah, it's one of those things that's interesting about this. You know how you can always sometimes see the villain's perspective on things. Sometimes you know, especially when you get older.
Yeah, that's a big thing. It's like, yeah, that's a very good point. You definitely see the villain's perspective as you get older.
You don't
Yeah,
always agree with it, but you can at least understand maybe sometimes where the villain is coming from, you know,
right.
at least sometimes, or see their motivations as far as maybe not agreeing with them, but maybe you can see how they got to where they got to, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Or you know, you get again things you see coming back to these movies when you're adult, or you maybe even relate to some of the more adult characters. You know, we get a lot of young characters in this one, young protagonists, and you kind of see the adult perspective as far as like, you know, maybe they're legit and trying to kind of stray them away from certain things, or maybe sometimes they're right. I mean, there's a movie we'll talk about later where the guy's kind of right about one of the situations that ends up happening, even though he's a bad dude. We'll talk about it,
mm,
but yeah, I mean, Little Mermaid, yeah, great songs. I mean, Under the Sea is great. You know, Kiss the Girls is great. And again, another thing, these movies all different have a different style of songs as far as like picking like kind of a theme. You know, this one's got this
yeah,
calypso big band sort of thing, you know, going on. As we'll see in something like you know, Aladdin, it's got, you know, more like bombastic Broadway kind of thing. You know, stuff later like Hercules has like the Motown kind of, you know, stuff going on. You know, there's always like kind of a different style of music for like each one, which kind of sets them apart, you know, which is nice. So they follow the formula, but they at least have something, a theme that kind of sets them apart.
yeah. And then Tarzan had Phil Collins.
Tarzan had Phil Collins. Yes, he
Yeah.
certainly did. Whether you love it or not, Tarzan had Phil Collins, and a lot of Phil. Boy, there a
I
lot of Phil
know how
Collins.
I feel about that when we get to Tarzan,
Yeah,
but
it's way at the end. We'll talk about it. But yeah, so we'll keep talking about Little Mermaid for a minute. We'll just talk for a few minutes about each of these movies. But yeah, you got any favorite scenes or favorite characters? You know, things going on you like?
I as a kid, I probably would have related to Flounder a lot.
Mm,
Like inside, I'm scared, but when I know I'm safe, it can be like, yeah, take that, you big shark. Um,
yeah.
I think is I think he's just a fun character. Sebastian, I really enjoy now because like he wants to do the right thing.
Well, he's
But
caught in the middle. He's the
yeah,
middleman. He's the unfortunate middleman who's like trying to watch over Ariel, but he gets where she's coming from. But he's also got to answer to this big Triton guy. You know, he's like caught in the
right.
middle, so he's like constantly the guy that gets like crapped on by trying to, you know, blamed for things, but it's not really like he's trying to control the situation, but he's got that neurosis, that anxiety, you know, like the whole movie, just like, oh goodness, oh no, me, oh, you know, he's just running around with like this look on his face, like, oh my god, my life is this is the worst. I'm under such stress. Like I feel for the guy throughout a lot of this movie.
I'm curious to see how these characters are portrayed in the remake that they're doing. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
um,
we'll see.
I'm curious how they handle the animals because there's one of these that was made to look like live action animals and it just didn't work.
Mm,
Um,
yeah,
so I'm curious how that goes. But yeah, no, Sebastian's a great character. I think it's hard to rank the side characters. I think the sidekicks because they're all so great in this era.
yeah.
But I'd say Sebastian and Flounder are probably top three for me. Like
Mm.
I think they're great. Um,
How about the villain? How about Ursula? Where's she right? She's kind of top three for me, I think personally. I think she's
yeah,
pretty great.
she's top three. Like there's some um, in this era that people like. I can understand why you would call them villains, but I don't look at them as
Hmm.
villains. I'll mention it when we. There's just
Hmm.
only one really that I don't like. You know,
Right.
he's not a villain. He's just a dick. he's he's but I guess he has villain tendencies towards the end of his movie, but Ursula, yeah, top three. I think
Oh
there's an
boy.
argument to be made for top two.
I just think the voice performance by Pat Carroll is so juicy and like so good, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah,
you can tell she's just having a blast just with the little moments, body language. She's having a lot of fun with like the little moments, like just playing that character. You can see it kind of it comes through the movie. How much fun she's having, with the performance. And I think Jodie Benson as Ariel is really really great. She still loves the character. I met her at a convention about 3 years ago in Knoxville. She's a total sweetie pie. She's the best. Yeah, and I went on like a Little Mermaid kick after I met her. Watched the movie like twice in 2 days, and just had what was looking up all these videos on YouTube and everything. But yeah, man, this movie's great. And again, what I love about these '90s movies, man, they're all like 85, 90 minutes. So in this case, it's like 77 minutes. Like, man, you can get in and out with these movies, and it's great.
yeah,
Man, it's awesome.
and and
I
they're
love it.
telling a complete story, and you're not feeling like you're missing anything.
Yes, yes,
So yeah,
yeah.
it's great. So let me pull this up.
All
We do
right.
have this. So I'm just I don't know if you're in agreement with me.
Oh hell yeah, hell no! Look, S tier is yeah, it's definitely because I this is one of the ones I watched to death when I was a kid. Like I said, I got refascinated with it a few years ago and was just as enraptured with it, a couple of years ago when I went on my kick with it. I didn't really need to watch it again for this one. Like I had watched it so recently that I was good. But yeah, this one still kicks for me. I enjoy all the songs, all the stuff, even the comedic sequences. The sequence with the chef and Sebastian still makes me laugh. Like I think it's great
Yeah,
slapstick humor too. I think all that stuff is really funny. And yeah, and that's the thing is if the humor can still work too, even as an adult, I think that works as well. So yeah, this one's an S tier. Yeah, I love Little Mermaid pieces. It's great.
nice. And then so now we move on to the following year, 1990, the greatest year ever, because that's the year I was born. All right, maybe I'm just a
Okay.
little biased. Maybe I'm just a little biased. Um,
Yeah.
but it one that I hear referred to as kind of the black sheep of the Disney Renaissance.
It's one of the
Um,
forgotten ones, and to me, I think one of the most underrated Disney animated movies out there. I love The Rescuers Down Under.
oh,
I think this movie's great. I've always advocated for this movie. I think this movie's rocks. I think this movie's so much fun. Like for me personally, the sequences are dynamite to me personally. So, but yeah, I'm interested to hear what you think. But I've always been a big fan of this movie, and even to this day. Yeah.
yeah. We got Jordan Anderson watching. What's up? Yep, Little Mermaid does rock. Only
Hmm.
missed one movie, and so far, yeah. Well, we've only talked about one movie,
Yeah.
so we're on the Rescuers Down Under, and this one to me, I like,
Mm.
but I'm not as high on it as most other people are. Like I understand the love for it, and it is something different from this era. Like it doesn't have any music, like any songs,
No.
um,
No.
and I for the type of movie it is, I totally understand why they made that decision. Um, it doesn't need songs. It doesn't need any. It's a good
Mhm.
story all on its own. That it doesn't need, you know, Bianca and Bernard singing while they're flying on, Albatross Airs or whatever it's called.
Yeah.
uh,
On Candy's. Yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
voiced by John. Yeah, John Candy was
Yeah.
as he was amazing. But
Mhm.
no, and I don't know if I'm just unfairly criticizing this one because it's not. I don't think of the same quality as especially like this first half. Especially like with what follows it, the three movies that follow it. Um,
Right.
I don't know. Like I did rewatch it, and I did enjoy it more this time than I remember enjoying it the last time I watched it.
Mhm.
So it has gone up, but this one I'm still kind of it's a good animated movie. It's a fun adventure movie. I I I don't dislike it, but it's like if I'm talking about my favorite Disney movies or doing a top 10 with honorable mentions, like this isn't going to be one that that I bring up, but I can understand why people do enjoy it. Like, it was the first Disney movie, the first sequel that Disney released in theaters. So obviously they saw something in these characters.
Right.
So
Yeah. To me, this might be John Candy's great. Yeah, like Wilbur, he's awesome, and yeah, who doesn't love John Candy? To me, if I was to do a top 5 like Disney animated movies, this one makes it for me. I've been a big fan of this movie ever since I was a kid, and to this day. And again, maybe it's because it feels like the black sheep of the Disney family because, like you said, it doesn't have any these big musical sequences. But I love the score to the movie. I think the opening where they're doing the computer shot, like doing the zoom across the field, like across the outback, like to the house, is gorgeous. A lot of this is the first one that really did a lot of the computer animation that kind of looks like hand-drawn animation. But I like Cody as a protagonist. He's just this kid who's an adventurer. He wants to get out of the house. We don't get to learn a lot about like his home life. He's got like a single mother, I think. Is kind of what it seems like. But I love the setting of the Australian outback. I think it's just a cool setting that's kind of unique from a lot of these other movies. Each of these kind of has a unique backdrop as far as where it takes place, and I think this is really cool. I guarantee you, Richie's a fan of this movie. If we had Richie on right now, it's probably an Australian staple because it's even got some Australian actors in there. I think George C. Scott as McLeach is one of the most underrated villains that doesn't get talked about enough as far as being a great villain. He does a phenomenal voice acting performance in this movie. He's a very simple character as far as he's just this illegal poacher, you know what I mean? But like this kid's getting in his way and he's pretty ruthless. Like he's ready to like dip this kid in a crocodile river, to like, in this pursuit of this, golden eagle, of which he's already killed one of them, like he's pretty ruthless when you think about it. Like a lot of stuff he does in this movie.
He threw 3 knives at him.
Yeah, no, and again, I just think I love the voice acting for it. I think George C. Scott's having a blast. Like I think it comes through when you listen to it. He's just having, when he's doing the stuff. Oh, home on the range where they're tied up in chains. He's having a good time. Like I think with the character just kind of letting loose a little bit. But I love the Eagles. He's really good. Yeah, that's what I was talking about, Jordan. The home on the range thing. Yeah, skin in their hides. Oh, right. Like he's really great. I think his little sidekick guy, I'm blanking on the name of him, but Frank Welker does the kind of animal voices, because of course he does, because Frank Welker does every animal performance ever in history. Yeah, Joanna. But yeah, and just Bob Newhart and Eva Gabor, man, classic actors doing doing Bianca and Bernard. I mean, that's just always kind of cool. You get a little like old school Hollywood. And I just think just straight action sequences of this one are top notch. I think they're really exciting. All the stuff with the waterfall at the end is great. All the stuff where they're kind of escaping and using their ingenuity to like get out of situations, I think is a lot of fun. And yeah, even the comedic sequences, like with the mouse doctors that are working on, that are working on Wilbur. I think stuff is fun when they're just shooting him with a rifle, shooting syringes in his ass. Like I think all that stuff's a lot of fun. But again, it just feels weird because it doesn't fit that mold, and it's kind of the one that gets like skipped over when people talk about this era. And I get it because it doesn't fit that Renaissance, like we talked about, hitting those bullet points, and it just feels different and it just gets forgotten about. But I love this movie to pieces, and I think it's a blast from start to finish. And again, it's another tight, like 77-minute movie, It just flies by, literally. It flies by, and I just think it's a ton of fun. But I get why people kind of just like it, but this is one of the ones I wore out on VHS when I was a kid, like, and I remember seeing it, and I just connected to it. So I really, really like it.
Yeah, like I said, I did enjoy it more this time. Like I did enjoy the action sequences and John Candy. I was more entertained by him this time than I remember from the last time. So yeah, like it's definitely gone up on the rewatch, and I wouldn't be opposed to rewatching it again, because like you said, those action sequences are good. Like if those action sequences were live action, like they could be some best. Like Disney. This is the animated one is good. Like if you want to remake, don't remake movies with animals singing. Remake movies with great action sequences. See
Yeah,
what you can do.
That's one big one.
Also, this is a really good movie that doesn't need to be live action. So also forget what I just said. But
Right.
no, it's solid. I understand where your love for this movie is coming from. It's just not quite there for me at the moment. But like I said, it did go up on the rewatch. So
Gotcha.
I'm curious, where would you put this one?
I'm okay. Like me, it's a personal S tier for me, but I'm okay with putting it in A tier because I get it. It's kind of doesn't fit that '90s Renaissance mold. You know what I mean? So it gets forgotten about. So I understand that, but I still think it's a really, really quality movie. Like with a good villain, good protagonist, really good animation and action sequences, and it flies by. And I think it just flies by. It's a lot of fun.
Cool. Yeah, so like if you were to go S, I have it B right now. So I mean, if we average it out,
there you go. Yeah,
right in the middle. And
sounds good.
I could even move it up on my personal ranking after rewatching it again.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, it's got potential. I mean, you saw what they can do with live action. Like, look at what they did with Stuart Little. That movie's great.
Well, again, stop remaking the movies that are already perfect, like some of the ones we're going to talk about here in a minute, and remake some of the ones that were, you could do some potential, like some cool stuff with live action. The movies that got forgotten about. Do the Rescuers, Rescue Down Under. You could do, a more live action Black Cauldron or something. Maybe take another shot at that and do it live action. Like I would imagine, like again, ones that had maybe potential that didn't really work at the time. Do that. It could be a fun fantasy movie. Sort of Merlin and stuff. Like, again, do that. Do that. Give those another shot. You don't need to remake our next movie, Beauty and the Beast, is perfect. You don't need to remake this movie. And the live action was not bad. It's fine. But like, come on, man, this movie was nominated for Best Picture. You know what I mean? That's how good it was, which was unprecedented at the time. And it won a ton of awards. Again, it's a tale as old as time that you don't need to remake again. To me personally, this is my number one of the Renaissance. I'll just put it out there, right at this one. This is, it might have been 2 or 3 when I was a kid, but as an adult, this is number one. Like this is jumped to, especially on the rewatches. Like I think this movie, like I said, I think the way it's told is near as close to a perfect movie as you can get. As we've said, the opening sequence, the Belle song where she's laying out the town and her motivations, and you get a little hint of Gaston here and there, and you kind of get his character almost right from the beginning. You get all that. You get the whole layout. It perfectly set. Even the beginning, the stained glass sequence is so simple, but it's so like well done. It's like such a simple way to do that. Almost like a fairy tale because it kind of is. As far as like a classic just tale. And it's so perfect the way that is. The way they blend the hand drawn and the computer stuff is amazing. And again, great side characters. With Lumiere and Cogsworth, I think are some of the best ones they've ever done. I love their back and forth banter as far as. It feels like an Abbott and Costello type thing. It's like sophisticated humor, but they're not relying on, just physical humor. It's like a lot of like verbal sparring, which is good. And yeah, I mean, Gaston's an awesome villain, and Beast is a great protagonist that has a good arc. Yeah, I love this movie. I mean, you know how much I love this movie, but I love this movie.
Right. No, I'm just about as high on this movie as you are. I think that opening sequence, the like the little prologue before the opening, that sets up the Beast, is great. And then I think Belle, I think it's hands down like the best opening sequence in a Disney movie. Like it sets up everything so perfectly. We know who Belle is. We know who Gaston is and what his intentions are in the movie.
We know how Belle. You get everything you need to know about Belle from the other people being like, "Oh, there she goes," straight. She's not fitting the mold. Yeah, she's reading, and oh my gosh, she's just so independent. She doesn't have a husband. She doesn't, she's not doing, fitting the mold of like what a woman should be in this society, quote unquote, And like, yeah, it's you know everything you need to know within the first 6 minutes of this movie, and I think it's a genius. I think it's genius.
Yeah, no, I'm in total agreement. This is the one like I at first I don't really see Gaston as a villain as much as I do like he's just you know kind of a douche.
He makes
But
it. He makes a
yeah,
turn, and what I love about it is a switch kicks on halfway through, and I talked about it in my bat. We're not going to go into the
right,
battleground
right,
thing. I
right,
mean,
right, right.
we had fun with the battleground match, but again, I made the argument, but I believe this argument in that he makes this. He something clicks in him where he gets so obsessed with what I think it is, and I talked about it in the battleground thing. It's the unattainable. She's unattainable in that movie because I think he's had all the other women in the town, or he's at least been out with them or whatever, the kind of blonde girls that we see, maybe some of the other ones that we haven't seen. I think those are easy. He's had that, and he wants something unattainable, and it's the pursuit. It's the pursuit of something you can't have. It's kind of a classic story of like trying the goal that you can't get to, and the fact that she's so resistant. It's a challenge. He's a macho guy. He's the alpha of the town, but she's a step beyond him, and he needs to. It's a prize for him. You know what I mean? Just like
Mhm.
his mantle of deer heads or whatever in his tavern. It's a prize that he has been unable to attain so far. So he wants to get that, and he also realized that she's intellectually and a step above everything, and he wants to make little Gastons that have her DNA in it too. I think like there's a thing underneath that where it's like she doesn't want the typical airhead girl. She wants somebody a little more on another level. So I mean, I think there's so many layers of things going on with the characters that you can really dive into this one, which is another reason it really works.
Yeah, yeah, no, I can totally see that. Beauty and the Beast is was nominated for Best Picture for a reason. It's probably my favorite movie of that year. I don't even know what else was nominated, but like if we could go back and give this the win, like I wouldn't be upset at that at all. Like it's a great
I'll look
movie.
it up for other ones to see if we think they're better or on par or worse than Beauty and the Beast. So yeah,
Or
no,
if I've even seen them.
I think that's pretty cool. Silence of the Lambs is pretty good. It's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
Give it that.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, it's a whole different movie, but it's pretty freaking good. Like it's a damn near masterpiece horror movie. But okay, we had Silence of the Lambs, Beauty and the Beast, Bugsy, which I've never seen, the
never
Warren
seen.
Beatty movie. JFK, which I'm not actually a big fan of. I don't really like JFK, and The Prince of Tides with Barbara Streisand, which I've never seen. So to
Okay,
be
so
fair,
number two is not bad. I mean,
and number two, but
at worst,
yeah,
over
I can't see
right under Silence.
the Warren Beatty movie being better than Beauty and the Beast for me personally, though. So I can safely say that. I watched it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's Beauty and the Beast is like the third movie in a row that I mean we don't know much about the home life and rescuers done under like you said, but it's another single parent. They
Mm-hmm.
really like to showcase
It's
single
bad.
parents in the '90s. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and that is one aspect of the remake that I did like is that they kind of dove into that a little bit more, and we see like kind of a little bit of Belle's past, and I enjoyed that. I don't I like the remake. I really enjoyed it when it first came out. But like the more I watch it, the more I appreciate this one even more because it's just like
Yeah.
another tight 80, 85 minutes, whatever it was. And it told the complete story with and
Yeah.
sure we had those questions like where is Belle's mother, but we didn't necessarily need them answered.
No, I mean, it's not like we need to dive into the whole family history and know exactly what's going on. Yeah, but again, you can make enough inferences and kind of context
Right.
clues as to what's going on. It might be a situation where maybe the mom was she was tired of the dad being a crackpot inventor and never being very successful. Maybe he spent all of his
Yeah.
time in the basement tinkering with this stuff. That happens a lot in other movies where the guy spends too much time in the basement working on stuff and the wife gets tired of it, never gets the attention, and she leaves. It's very conceivable to think that. You know what I mean?
Right.
But maybe Belle was down there with him, and they connected so that when she left, she felt like she needed to take care of her dad. So I mean, you can make logical fan theories. You know what I
Right.
mean? You could go. So yeah.
So this is
Uh, oh,
another
it's an
one.
easy yes.
No brainer.
Oh,
No brainer. You're going up
yeah.
there. Um,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
it's not going to be the last one that goes up there. Because there's two more following this that could easily, most likely will make it up there, including our next one, 1992's Aladdin. Again, another near
Yeah.
perfect animated Disney movie that didn't
Yeah.
need a remake, but Disney, they see dollar signs and they go for it. But we're not here to trash Disney. We're here to
Yeah.
talk about the good ones,
Well, we're not
including
talking about
Aladdin, which
talking about the originals and the good movie. You know what I mean? We're talking about the OGs. We're talking about the
yeah.
OGs that everybody knows are the best. That's what we're talking. We're here to celebrate the great movies of that era. That's what we're here to do. But we should
Mhm.
mention that Beauty and the Beast broke $100 million animated, which was first time any
Oh
animated
wow,
movie
I
ever
didn't know
done
that actually.
so at the time, and then would only be surpassed by the following two movies that came after it, as far as the grosses. So they just got better and better. So yeah, obviously with Aladdin and Lion King, which we'll talk about in a minute. So yeah.
Yeah, moving on to Aladdin, and
Hmm.
Disney just kept going with they have really made a string of three just top tier animated movies, and Aladdin was no different. They having Robin Williams' name attached to it, I'm sure helped a lot.
Yeah.
But another one, like, this is another one that just it had another great opening, like establishing
Hmm.
who Aladdin is, because this street rat who is just trying to
Hmm.
survive day to day. Um,
Yeah. Well, I mean, we should say even before that, we get the Arabian Nights opening, which gives us that great thing of just opening the city. Oh,
oh yeah, yeah,
Arabian, which gives me goosebumps every time they hit it. Like it's a great just kind of opening. Because it's not even like a full song. It's just like this theme of this movie. Like kind of sets the tone as far as again with the different setting of this film. Beauty and the Beast has that sort of French, French Victorian Renaissance,
mhm,
whatever it is. I don't know what time period, but you know what I mean. That kind of
right,
classic
right,
French, maybe like 1800 sort of thing. Little Mermaid obviously had the underwater stuff. Rescuers Down Under has the Australian outback, and this has that sort of Middle East kind of Egypt, backdrop. But again, it gives it another cool setting and again a unique look that people latched onto. And yeah, like you said, the whole sequence where he's doing run around singing the stuff about him being a riffraff street rat, all that stuff, perfectly setting up again the setting that he hangs out the marketplace that we see him a lot in. His background as far as being just the street urchin, who he's street smart, but he's again aspires to be more. And it's interesting because it's really, I mean, Cody. People forget that Cody's kind of the male protagonist, but as far as these big movies, again, you kind of forget about Rescuers, but being kind of a male protagonist of this movie, like it's Aladdin. It's after the guy this time instead of Ariel or Belle. Obviously Jasmine is a big part of this movie, but it's more kind of focused on Aladdin and his pursuit of something greater, and what he's kind of looking for. So it's again that also kind of sets it apart with the male protagonist that we would see a couple of times, but it was kind of interesting at this time, jumping over to that.
yeah. And another great side character in Abu, even though he doesn't really talk as
Mhm.
much, but kind of just the facial expressions that he makes and just kind of the
And Frank
mannerisms. But
his voice, because of course,
right,
you know,
uh,
because why? The man can just do no wrong, of course, as far as that goes.
mm-mm.
But yeah.
Yeah, just a man and his monkey.
Hmm.
Um, and we see what kind of person Aladdin really is in the beginning of this movie too. Like, it's like he doesn't really have anything, but when he sees two kids hungry, like, okay, here, have my bread. Um,
Yeah, or
we,
just
we
willing
see,
to steal. If he has to steal a little bit and run away from somebody to give the kid, something. What I mean, he's willing to take the hit. You know what I mean, or run around because they know he's a thief anyway. So it's like, who cares? At this point, he's already kind of wanted, but he has the ability to get away and outsmart people, and like see, he knows how to, he almost does like, he's like a parkour master almost in this one too, flying in and out of windows, jumping all over the awnings and everything. He's very spry. But yeah, he's got a good heart. He doesn't have a lot, but even then, he's willing to give whatever he has. Even without a lot. So yeah, you could tell from the start. I mean, yeah, he did. He has his moments later where he gets a little arrogant, becoming the prince and stuff. But like, it's only because I think it's his first foray into that world anyway, so he doesn't know what he's doing. So you can kind of forgive him because he has no idea what to do. It's all new to him.
Yeah, and another top tier villain in Jafar.
Yeah.
Just who will do whatever it takes to get what he wants. Man, when he turns into the genie at the end of this movie, like that, as
scary,
kid, like I was scared. Like that's some scary imagery. And man,
he's also one, Jacob. He's one of the few villains that doesn't have any sort of charming or sympathetic moments. He's kind of evil from the get-go. I mean? Like, he's got those eyes, he's got that look. Even just when he's not in the main plot, when he's just hanging out with the Sultan, you can tell he's just like, he doesn't respect the Sultan. He looks down upon him. This little idiot. Whatever. Like, I should be running the place, not you. Everything he does, he's got that sneer. Like, he has no, like, there's some other villains throughout the series that sort of have at least some levity. Gaston is not, again, like you said, he's a douche, but he's not totally like evil or anything from the beginning. He's just an arrogant alpha asshole. You know what I mean? He just is. He's the epitome of toxic masculinity, if you want to call it that or whatever. He's just a guy, but he's not evil. You know what I mean? He's just like. Right. He's just a douche, you know what I mean? Like, for the most part, until the end of the movie. Even Ursula, again, is not hateable because she's just a business person. She doesn't have like pursuits of world domination or anything. She's just kind of running her shady business. McLeach is evil later, but he has those moments where you think like, where, come on out of the hole, I'll you just run along home, as long as you just don't tell the Rangers, we'll be good to go. You know what I mean? He's like one of those guys where if Cody had run home and not told the Rangers, he probably would have left him alone. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things where, again, they're not all evil, but Jafar is the first one where like pretty much every moment he's on screen, he's in pursuit of like that domination. You know what I mean? He's got nefarious plans from his first moment. So yeah, I think he's unique in that way where he's 100% evil. Like he's there, and we'll talk about another one later who I think is also pretty much 100% evil. But yeah, he's right up there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then I think that's it. I don't think there's any other big major characters in the Aladdin that I can think of.
There was this guy that recently who did this like little voice called Iago, but was he worth talking about? Yeah, of course he's worth talking about. Fucking Iago rules. Like, he's the greatest. Like he's the levity of Jafar, with Jafar having no levity, but they were smart to have Iago who gets the laughs, who's the big like outburst, who gets the good lines. He's the one that, even though he's with Jafar and he's always like kind of parroting literally everything he says, but he's also like you like him because you can see him like maybe not being evil the whole time, and I think he kind of makes a turn in some of the direct-to-video movies, I think, where he kind of hangs out with some of the other guys every now and then. I think he kind of breaks away from Jafar and kind of turns a little bit good. But yeah, like you like him despite him being kind of outlandish and crazy, but he's a lot of fun as like that sidekick. He brings the levity to it, when Jafar doesn't.
Yeah, he might be my favorite like villain sidekick. He's just great.
Even so, because I like LeFou in Beauty and the Beast, but he's just kind of a dunce. Like, he's just like, the guy who gets knocked around. Like, he doesn't really like do a whole lot. He's just kind of walking around with Gaston and kind of patting him on the back and just kind of boosting his ego. But Iago is like, he's like in, but he's not in. He's just kind of along for the ride, like just because I don't think he has a choice at that point. There's like no other life path he can go on, so he's just kind of there. But he says the thing that Jafar can't or whatever, and I'm still not convinced that anybody other than Jafar can actually hear him. That's like my theory.
Yeah, I'm on board with that.
because I don't think anybody else interacts with Iago directly other than Jafar.
Mm-mm.
So is he even real as far as talking, or is Jafar just hearing him in his head? Or is
No,
he
he
schizophrenic
does.
in that
If
way?
you
Or
remember,
does he?
later in the movie when Aladdin is being introduced, it's Iago
Okay.
that changes his voice to sound like Jasmine to
Oh,
call him out. So maybe maybe everyone else is just ignoring him, or I
yeah.
don't know.
I just always wondered that if Iago was even almost like a schizophrenic voice in Jafar's head, like that just is yapping to him because he's just gone off the deep end or something. I don't know. I was just like random theory I had, but
Yeah.
I guess if you get a viewing where I'd have to pay a little more attention, to everything. But yeah, all right.
Yeah, and
And
I can't see.
what can I say about Robin Williams? I mean, of course, he's amazing as the genie. Like, it's one of
Oh
his
yeah,
best performances ever. I mean, he created like 50 unique characters within the genie that he just came up with in the voice, and then they had to backtrack and animate stuff around that. When he's doing like the Arnold voices, or he's doing the Libby Space, or just all the different game show hosts or whatever, the different characters he just spits off, rapid fire. They had to animate around that, and he created, I think it's literally something like 40 something or 50 something characters or unique
yeah,
versions of the genie, I should say. And it's pretty incredible. And yeah, like the fast paced nature, but he has a heart too. And again, some of those dramatic moments, when he breaks down, he finds, what do you want? And he goes, freedom. Like, do you feel it? Like, he's just like, I can't, as kind of crazy as I am, I can't escape this thing I'm latched onto. And you feel for him, like
right.
he killed him.
Yeah, and it's such a wonderful moment at the end of the movie when Aladdin, who could very easily use his wish to, for selfish needs, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, and he grants him his freedom. He wishes for his freedom, and it's just, I think it's a wonderful moment, and just the perfect way to end a nearly perfect animated movie.
Yeah.
Um, like
Mm-hmm.
great villains, and man, there were moments in this movie that I thought Jafar was gonna win. Like I didn't know how Aladdin was going
Yeah.
to get out of it, and
Yeah. It wasn't the evil genie, is when he turns into the snake and he's got those eyes
oh
and stuff. Like, that's crazy. Like the snake is just creepy. Like this black snake or whatever, like, or red snake, whatever it is, like red and black snake. Like, he's creepy as just a snake, even when he's just like slithering around. Like, that's creepy. But yeah, like it's good stuff. And yeah, I like the twist of them tricking him into becoming the genie, and then getting him to kind of fulfill his own demise. Like it's a great little twist. So using their brains.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're not going to defeat him with anything.
With Braun at that point. Yeah,
You're not going to defeat him with
he's a little,
brawn. You defeat him with brains.
yeah, but it's good
um,
stuff. I like it. But come on, pull up the chart. You know where Aladdin's going.
oh
This is
yeah.
not a question.
So
Yeah,
Aladdin, you're just right here. They
yeah,
know it's
yeah,
going
yeah.
up
What a
here.
kidding. Yeah, of course.
F for fantastic.
Yeah, right.
Um,
Well,
yeah,
and we
and
move on to. Do you consider the next one your personal favorite, or is it just like a top three thing, or is it your number
it's
one?
this is my number one. It's in my top five. Whoops, it's in my
Just
top five like favorite movies in general. Like top five, top 10. It hovers, but it's my favorite animated movie. I have seen this movie. Let's see, one, two, no, I can't even count how many times I've seen this movie. I lost count. You know, you, uh, think about how many times you've seen Aliens, and I've probably seen this movie
right.
that many times.
Yeah, like two, just something in that range. Yeah, yeah, I get it.
Um,
Yeah, I mean, literally, I may have the around the same if you count all the times I watched it as a kid, because these first five I all had on video as a kid, and when you're whatever you have as a kid on video, even if it's like 20 movies, you just rotate them and just watch them over and over again.
right.
You know what I mean? It's just what you watch because it's what's available. So, I mean, if I literally had a running count, which I didn't as a kid, it would probably be in the same range, because I mean, all of these five I just wore out, over and over again.
Oh yeah. As a kid, when I found out Darth Vader was Mufasa, insert head exploding now.
Well, I didn't even put that together as a kid because I also had I have the Star Wars like VHS trilogy set, which I still have, as far as the original movies. And I even as a kid, yeah, I didn't put that together in my head that like this evil dude from these other Star Wars movies that I started to watch, later, when I was around 9, 10, 11 years old, was like the same guy as Mufasa. Eventually I put it together. But yeah, it was like, how could this evil guy in this one movie be such this majestic king, in this other movie? Like that's the same guy. Yeah, like they sound alike, but they're not the same person. It can't be. When you're a kid, you're like, it can't be the same person. No.
Yeah.
One's Mufasa, one's Vader. That's not the same. Yeah.
Mufasa, who was not a single parent. Simba had both his parents in this movie. We broke the streak of single parents.
Uh-huh.
But man, this from the opening sequence with the Circle of Life, like which is just animated so beautifully. I think Elton John did an amazing job on the music for this movie. Just that opening sequence, and it doesn't really tell you anything about the movie, but it's just it lays the setting, I think, so perfectly, like just the jungle, and we get introduced to Mufasa and Sarabi.
We understand the order of life, the order of this setting as far as we understand that there is the the gazelles and the elephants and whatever, and we get that obviously there are lion kings, kind of rule over this thing. We understand that we don't get any dialogue or a opening song that sort of lays out the character motivations, but it's a different take, but it's still a gripping one as far as doing something different, and while still having an incredible visual opening.
And then after that we just see how much Simba really adores his dad. We don't really get much of the mother-son interaction, except for when she's giving him that bath and he he's giving him that wrist. But it's very much the opening. 20 minutes, half an hour of this movie is about Mufasa and Simba and just their relationship, and I think it's one of the best father-son relationships put to screen that I've seen. I have to say that I've seen because I've not seen every movie ever made, so there might be ones that are better.
Yeah,
but it's one that I really enjoy. And even later in the movie, when Simba's an adult lion, he's still looking to his dad for advice. And it just shows how great of a father Mufasa was.
Well, if James Earl Jones was my dad, it would probably be hard to not look up to him as a figure. I mean, you can look up also if you want to see another father-son thing. That movie Fences that came out with Denzel Washington, which was on Broadway.
No, that's a good one.
The back in the 80s, you could find a clip of the main scene where he kind of goes back and forth with the son as far as when the son goes, why don't you like me, and he goes about, I put food in your belly, and have clothes on your back. You can see clips of James Earl Jones doing it in the 80s. So if you want to imagine maybe what James Earl Jones would be as a father at home, in human form, you can see that, and it's really powerful. But like I say, Simba's kind of like Ariel as far as wanting to explore the world, see things beyond kind of his circle of existence, and he's an explorer. He's curious. You could say he's curious like a cat, maybe a little bit. And again, Scar, he's not. He's manipulating, but you kind of like him at the beginning because he's Simba, you really should stay here. I like the way Jeremy Irons play into it as far as kind of that what am I trying? Which passive aggressive, kind of being passive aggressive with Simba the whole time. That sounds wonderful. The whole thing. I'm just so excited to, or when he's like, I didn't see you at the ceremony. He's just like, oh, was that today? I love the way he plays. It's so great. The way Jeremy Irons plays, because he's not being evil. He's sick of his situation. And again, you can kind of see it from his perspective. He's Mufasa's brother, and he wants to take the throne. He feels like it's his turn, but they have this son, and the son is destined to be the king, and he gets passed over. So again, you kind of see his perspective, at least. Again, you don't agree with the actions he takes, but you can see his motivations, and they're very clear. So obviously the way he goes about it, is the crux of the movie. But but he's very, again, Jeremy Irons is so charming, especially when you're watching it as an adult. Just the performance, you can see like the subtle things he does with like the way he delivers the lines, and just the nature of that. I could see him in the booth, just kind of delivering those lines the way he does, and that's what makes him one of the best villains. Is just he has those motivations, and then when he turns it on, when he's just like, long live the king, and he releases him. It's just like, oh, dude, holy shit!
Yeah.
Like that's
I teared up every single time I saw that as a child. Like I knew it was coming, but 5-6-year-old me still couldn't like handle it. So I cried every time. Like, no, not Mufasa. Mufasa, you should have like reversed and flipped him over instead. But he didn't. And then he brings up a good point here. Powerful movie about how friends can lift your spirits and bring you back from dark places. Losing a parent can be hard. I'm lucky enough to still have, both mine living, so I can't, imagine that kind of pain. I mean, I've lost grandparents, but I haven't lost a father or a mother. So I can imagine how hard it can be. And as a young cub out on your own, not
just
sure.
Wanted to run away from the situation in general and just leave the situation. Like I get it. I mean, I know Scar kind of pushes him into it at the same time, run away, Simba, and never return, but at the same time, it's like, what do you go back to? I mean, when your dad was your life, was your whole, essence, and he was your best friend and your dad, and he kind
especially
of
when it's made to look like it's your fault.
It wasn't your fault, Simba. Again, the performance is so great. No, of course it wasn't your fault. Of course not. Just the way he plays it is so great. But it's amazing how much of an impact that James Earl Jones makes. Again, if you were to clock it, and I'm sure I could Google it, like maybe 15 minutes of screen time. This whole movie. I mean, he's only in that first act. And then he's in, the part where he comes out of the clouds or whatever at the end, to deliver a few lines there. But, if I were to Google it, couldn't be more than 15 minutes or so. It really is a supporting performance, but he makes such an impact and such an impression, as he does. I mean, he's James Earl Jones, of course he does. With what he has, but it's one of the reasons why it's one of the most beloved performances. And then when they went to this remake, it was like, oh, who do we cast as Mufasa? Oh, James Earl Jones is still around. Yeah, just get him to do it again, because there's nobody that could top it. I mean, it just is what it is. He's the man, and it's gonna be sad when we lose him. Hopefully anytime soon. But he left such an impact again on just such a small role.
Yeah. And then in getting introduced to, I love Timon and Pumbaa. I think they're my favorite, kind of sidekick characters. I love them. Maybe it was the fart jokes as a kid that got me, because fart jokes when you're 5, 6, and 7 are always funny. Then even growing up, like I think just the demeanor of Timon, I think, is just hilarious, and kind of taking credit for what Pumbaa says.
Of anybody, Nathan Lane just brings it. I mean, he's a Broadway guy, so he knows how to command the attention of an audience, with everything, and bring that energy, that I think he brings to that role. And he's just so unique, and he's a lot of, I think actually my favorite side character in this one, as I've grown older, is Zazu. Again, he's kind of like Sebastian, where he's like that middleman, who gets crapped on a lot, but I kind of like his sarcastic, demeanor throughout the whole thing. And I always forget it is Rowan Atkinson, who's, I love Mr. Bean, so I love Rowan Atkinson. But yeah, I think he's kind of subtly really great. And I'm trying to remember the guy who does, it's Robert Guillaume, something like. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. Who does Rafiki, and he's really great too. I think Rafiki, great kind of mentor background, this, the guy who spouts the old wisdom when it's needed, you know what I mean, who pushes him in the right direction. The guy who kind of observes and just sort of watches everything and who knows the right thing to say at the right time. I think again, every person just plays their role so well in this movie.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Rafiki, because I think he's like one of the more underrated Disney characters, because he doesn't get talked about, because he's not in the movie an awful lot, but he does make an impact, like with his interaction with adult Simba and kind of starting his journey back to Pride Rock, and he is such an important character. And he doesn't, because when you talk about like Disney characters, you're going to bring up the genie or Simba, Belle, and some of these Snow White, some of these older ones. But Rafiki, like he makes the most of his screen time, and I think he's an important character, and he deserves more love. And the music in this, like, I think it's some of my favorite, like that I just can't wait to be king sequence. That whole sequence, I think, is
and
great.
A sequence that you can't do in the remake, because it's a sequence where they're making pyramids and they're leaping all over the place and flying around. It's like you can't do that. And I know it's not live action. Like, I think the live action thing is a weird misnomer. It's still computer generated, but like the way they try to ground that movie, you can't have all the ostriches making these pyramids and climbing on top of it. It just would look weird. So like you can only have that kind of sequence in one of these classic animated style movies. You know what I mean? And like this big number. Yeah.
Yeah, and Scar's villain song, it's up there. It's between that awesome. And Poor Unfortunate Souls for me as to which one I like more, but I don't think there's a wrong answer there. But that sequence is great. The dark moments in this movie are dark. The Elephant Graveyard, the Be Prepared song, the final battle between him and Scar, and then with when
fire and just like the background, it's just a really great visually when they're doing the slow motion hits back and forth, like kind of almost like Rocky IV when they're hitting each other back and forth, on the neck, forth. All that stuff's really great, and it's just beautifully animated. Like great setting, and then when it finally ends and you just get like the rain sequence and everything just kind of raining and putting the fire out, like it's a nice moment. I like that stuff a lot.
Yeah. So. Yeah, and my number one. So I absolutely love it, and it's going. I'm pretty sure.
Of course, it's an all-timer. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So, I could probably get rid of the D and F tier, and
I don't have anything in D or F. I do have one in the C tier. I'll talk about here very shortly. But to be fair, so, and actually, we're going to talk about it next, just to spoil things. Pocahontas, 1995. Yeah. Even on this is one of the ones I've seen the least. And I hadn't gone back to this one in a long, long time. And I don't know what it was about this one. First off the bat, it's. Let me look up the actual runtime of the movie. It's let's see. It's 80 minutes. It's an 80-minute movie that feels like 2.5 hours when I was watching it. It took me like 3 days to get through Pocahontas. I kept having to come back to it. I don't know what it was about it. I just felt the pacing was really off in this one. I don't know why it just didn't click with me. Again, the animation is really beautiful. I like the setting. I like the timeline of doing this sort of pilgrim kind of Native American story. Like, I get it. I like the idea of having Pocahontas, this Native American, protagonist, and she's very similar to the other girls. She's got this sort of predestined life ahead of her, with the tribe of being destined to marry Coquitlam and kind of live this life of privilege. But she's an explorer. You know, she's kind of a mishmash of some of the previous characters. She's an explorer. She likes to go off on her own. She likes to run around and explore the world, see what's going on. And then, you know, all the acting is really good. I mean, I have no complaints about, you know, about Irene Bedard and Mel Gibson and like a lot of these voice actors. It's all really good. Just something for me just doesn't. It just feels off about this movie. Like it just doesn't click as hard as some of these other ones. Maybe it's the fact that the villain's kind of forgettable. Some of the sidekick characters are kind of forgettable. There's not a lot of memorable characters outside of John and Pocahontas for me personally. It just not a whole lot of it clicks. I think you know, as much as I like Linda Hunt, the willow tree character is weird because it just kind of comes out of nowhere. It doesn't really fit with the rest of the movie, just for me personally. And again, I just don't think the action sequences are particularly engaging when we do get them. And even the songs are just, other than Colors of the Wind, just don't really hit that hard. I think they're kind of forgettable overall. I forget the titles of them sometimes, other than the Riverbend one. But the Colors of the Wind is a great sequence, and it's obviously the high point of the movie. But yeah, the opening Virginia Company thing is just odd. It just doesn't work for me. And even the villain song of the Mine for the Taking or whatever it's called, you know, it's mine for the taking. Like, it's okay, it's fine. But it's like it doesn't really do a lot to kind of push even the villain, who's just kind of a standard. I'm going here to take over and be the big man on campus. You know, it's just not a lot going on there. So I don't know. What your thoughts? Maybe I'm all over the place.
I'm in full agreement with you. I'm in full agreement with you. It didn't take me 3 days, but I did rewatch it. I actually rewatched it today.
Stop. Like, I couldn't get through the movie. Like, I watched like 30 minutes and I was like, oh my God, we're only 30 minutes in. I feel like I've been watching this for an hour. And I had to come back to it. And I watched more of it. And then I was like, oh my God, I feel like I've been watching it for 2 hours. Like, I just kept having to come back to it, man. I don't know what it is.
No, I did rewatch it today, but like I found myself, like, if my phone went off, like I was checking it and then I was like, oh, let me play this game for a few minutes, and oh yeah, no, it's still on. No, so I'm in total agreement with you. I'm not going to disagree with anything you said. I think I do really enjoy the music. I think it's some of the better music in Disney personally. So, I mean, for that, it kind of brings it up. If it didn't have the music, this would be like a D or an F for me personally. Like, the music does bring it up. So I don't really have a lot to say about this movie. I think you basically covered it. So
I just don't think there's a lot to talk about here. Everything just kind of, again, it's not. I don't want to say it's bad, because like none of these movies I think are bad. You know, like it's fine. It's perfectly watchable. It has all the pieces, you know, to be a good movie. I just felt like this is one I would be open to a remake of, that they should. You know what I mean? Like, I think that you could do better this one in live action. I think this one would definitely fit more. You know, you should be remaking this more than remaking Lion King. You know, like, if you want to do a good remake and really cast, like they're doing with this Predator movie that's coming out, like all these Native American actors and stuff, like do a Pocahontas movie, like proper, you know, like do a live action one. You know, cast some Native American characters, cast somebody as John Smith, everybody, you know, and really like do it up and do the period piece stuff. And then I think you could really, this is one that could be improved on. You know, I think there's some of these that they're just kind of there. You know, remake the ones that didn't maybe live up to their full potential. You know, maybe you can improve upon them instead of just knowing that you're not going to hit the same highs as Lion King remake is just not going to be as good as the original. It's just not, and everybody knows that. Everybody agreed upon it when it came out. It's just them doing almost shot for shot, and it just doesn't work. You know, it's like doing the Psycho remake. It's just, why bother? You know, you're doing Aladdin, but it's like, I like Will Smith, but dude, you ain't Robin Williams in that role, bro. Like, he made something legendary out of that, a character that will live on forever.
Which is something I did appreciate about the remake, is that he didn't try.
At least they did something different. I will say that's true.
So I did appreciate that.
Yeah,
he did put his own spin on it.
And I can at least appreciate that. It's like you do the same story, but do this. But yeah, you know. Racist, I guess. 95. What are you gonna do? I don't know if it's like I didn't see a lot of racism watching it, to be honest. I didn't see a lot of that. I think it's like, I think they treat the Native American characters pretty well in this movie overall. I don't think they like insult. They're pretty strong characters for the most part. And it has like a lot of the stuff where the white guys in the movie are treating them like savages, but that's because that's would have been time appropriate. Again, I don't think it's inherently racist. It's something that was time appropriate to what they would act like. It's like, you watch something like Django or the Hateful Eight, where they're calling the black guy the N-word. It's because that's what they probably would have done at the time. You know what I mean? So like, is it racist just because it's time appropriate? I mean, I understand it's showcasing it, but like, but it's not applauding it. It doesn't make the guys out to be the protagonists of the movie. They're kind of the fools in the movie, and we're clearly on the side of the Native Americans pretty much this entire movie. So I think that's pretty clear. John Smith is the guy kind of caught in the middle of it, where he's actually the one, trying to make friends and trying to talk and trying to avoid the conflicts. He's the one who doesn't have that. So, again, I think to just on the surface level it's right now. Look, now if you go back and look at the Peter Pan movie, where they literally have a song called "What Makes the Red Man Red," and they literally have red face, that's racist. Okay, like that's way more blatant. Like this one, they're at least like pretty accurate representation. You know what I mean? Like it's nowhere near that. Like you can look at that. If you want to point to anything in Disney history, go look at sequences like that. As far as the warning, I don't think this one does it is as egregious. But yeah, it's just kind of a forgettable movie. And I was gonna say, do you want to make a do you want to make a prediction as far as the 3 movies that are the lowest rated on Rotten Tomatoes out of these 10?
Oh,
I looked it up.
Pocahontas, I think, is one of them.
Yes, correct. It's actually the lowest. 55% is the lowest. Yeah.
Pocahontas, and then I think the next one is. Is the next one Hercules?
No.
Hercules
was like or something.
It's tough because they're all like aside from Pocahontas, I think they're all really good. I have to say, I think you and I are higher on it than most people, so maybe Hunchback.
Correct.
Is in the bottom 3, and then is it Rescuers?
It's Rescuers Down Under. Yeah.
Rescuers Down Under. Like, what, 71?
Much either in the high 80s or 90s, or pretty solidly in the 90s, and even the ones that are really high up, like Aladdin, like Beauty and the Beast, are all like 95, 96, 97. They're all really, really high. But Pocahontas is the lowest, 55. And again, because I just don't think there's enough. Yeah, and again, it's not like we don't hate it. It's not horrible. It's watchable. It's fine. But yeah, I really
funny because I'm pretty sure people like chose not to work on The Lion King because they thought this movie was going to be the bigger hit.
Right. It wasn't. It took a tip on this one. Yeah.
Great business decisions, guys.
Yeah. So yeah, I think a C tier on Pocahontas. It's my lowest one, so it's pretty appropriate. So
that's where I got it. So.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about
C tier is not terrible.
Yeah, it's not terrible. If C is your worst, then yeah, you could be doing worse. So let's talk about a movie that was the wild card for me coming into this. I had not seen this movie maybe since 96 or 98 or something. Maybe since I rented it. I could pretty safely say it's been 25 years since I've seen this movie. Since I've seen Hunchback of Notre Dame. I remembered very, very little about it. The only thing recently I knew was I listened to a couple of songs because they were on that Disney tournament fights we did about like Disney songs. So I listened to a few of the songs. I listened to the Hellfire song and things like that. But even the Hellfire song, I was like, wow, this is like really good. And I was like, man, am I sleeping on this movie? And then we did this thing. So this is the one I was most interested in as far as going back, as far as where I loved Hunchback. I thought this movie was awesome. I thought this movie just killed. Like this was the biggest surprise for me personally coming back to the series. And this is a movie that people have slept on, man. This movie's great. Yeah. From the opening of the Bells of Notre Dame song, again, that kind of this sweet flyover thing, setting up the sitting and the setting, to, like I said, the Hellfire villain song of this one, which is great. A phenomenal villain in Frollo. I think he's great. He's maybe the darkest villain maybe the darkest villain out of everybody.
So
Tony J
creepy.
murders this role, man. Like Tony J is such a killer like voice actor. I could listen to that dude like read the dictionary. Like he's great. And we got a taste of him in Beauty and the Beast, by the way. He was the guy who ran the asylum, like in that
Oh,
movie.
okay.
Like I've come,
Yeah.
father. And basically they were like, he was so good in that role. It's such a minuscule role that they were like, we're gonna get you to be like a villain in a later movie. Like just wait. You know what I mean? We'll find a way to work you in. And they finally had this movie and had an opportunity to do his thing, and he's really great. But yeah, I even like the story, man. I you know like you know. Oh my god, why am I blanking on everything right now? But you know, Quasimodo's great. You know, what's the name? Phineas or whatever, or
Phoebus.
yeah, Phoenix, yeah,
Phoebus.
yeah, Phoebus, played by Kevin Kline, is so charming and such a cool
Yeah.
like character out of nowhere for me. I think he's really likable. He's got a great charisma, great personality. Yeah, Esmeralda, Demi Moore is great. Yeah, just the whole cast is dynamite. I think a lot of the sequences are just gorgeous to look at, like the setting, and for me, the score and the songs having that operatic, you know, classical, you know, orchestral feel to it just made it really, really epic and really cool for me. I really dug the score and like a lot of the choirs and the things that they do with the song, kind of that, again, that sort of you know, French, you know, Revolution sort of era stuff. I really, really liked Hunchback. This is the biggest surprise for me coming back to this.
Yeah, this was one that cause like I didn't rewatch any of the previous three. You know, the big three, that Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King. I didn't need to rewatch them.
Yeah,
But or the Little Mermaid, didn't need to rewatch them. But this one, yeah, it's been a little bit, but man, every single time I watch it, I am just glued to the screen. It is really good. The story is really good. The music, like you said, the score, and I think Quasimodo might be the most likable Disney character.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, maybe.
you're rooting for him the whole time,
Hmm.
and you know I like that he doesn't get the girl because you know
Yeah,
you
it
kind
was surprising.
of
He sets up, you know, Phoebus and Esmeralda at the end and just lets them do their thing. And it's, yeah, you think it's gonna go where he gets Esmeralda, but it doesn't go that way. I mean, he is accepted by society. You know,
Mhm.
he is Michelle. He is, you know, accepted as a you know, regular person. But yeah, he doesn't get the girl. The handsome guy gets the girl, which is kind
Yeah.
of, you know, this older guy gets the girl in the end. But it's this kind of love triangle thing that is really fascinating that we've never really seen in any of these movies. So it brought like a unique twist to it. Yeah, that I didn't see coming, because I didn't even know the character of the Phoebus character, the Kevin Kline character, was even in the movie when I came back to it. I didn't even know that.
Oh,
I thought it was just Quasimodo and Esmeralda. Because again, I hadn't seen this movie 25 years. I didn't remember like much
right.
about it at all. I didn't even remember who the villain was. I was like, I just remember one or two sequences. But yeah, like it was kind of unique in that you got this sort of love triangle thing, but it's also this, you know, story of this guy who wants to get out of his, you know, get out of the bell tower and like, you know, and go, you know, live amongst the people. But again, Frollo, as evil as he is right initially about the people not accepting him. He's right, you know. So like,
Mhm.
you know, when you think of it, he warns him. He's like, the people are not going to accept you. They're going to think you're a monster, and they're going to turn on you. And they do at the festival. So I mean, granted, again, Frollo's an evil dude who literally wants to burn people in their houses alive, and he's a straight up
Yeah.
like murderer. But like he's a bad
Movie
dude.
is dark.
But again, the performance is so good, like in those scenes where he's just having like a meal with Quasimodo, and just like, you know, now you mustn't you know, go out down there, you know, that I'm your protector, I, you know, you have a life up here, I saved you, you know, I did this, that, and the other. Like I just love the way Tony J, he just owns this part. Again, he's hypnotic in his delivery, as an actor, and I just think, man, he completely kills this role. He's awesome. But just the look of this movie is great. The epic nature, the sequences, like that when they do have the action, are really good. I fell in love with this movie. Like I thought it was great. I'm gonna put this in the rotation, like for sure, going forward. Like this is definitely gonna be one I recommend to people.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. I think Judge Frollo, like if Ursula and Scar are my 1-2 as far as
Hmm.
villains, Like I think he's competing for that number 3 spot, kind of like
Yeah,
with Jafar and one that we're going to talk about very shortly.
sure.
Like he's in the conversation. I mean, if we were asking who's the darkest and the creepiest
Oh yeah,
Disney villain,
there.
there's just no
No.
contest. It's Judge Frollo.
Mm.
You know, yeah, like you said, burning people in their homes for
Yeah,
trying to help somebody, for trying to be a good person.
right.
And I mean, she's not even there. Like she,
Well, even and there's even stuff that's not shown where he's like my previous general or whatever. The dude's literally like getting his head lopped off in the background, like in the other room, and he's just like
oh
he
yeah,
disappointed. You know what I mean? Like there's weird stuff like that that it's just implied. And you're just like, whoa, like all right, like this dude's something. You know what I mean? Like he locks down the city. I mean, he's like interrogating people left and right, arresting everyone. Like he's an evil dude, man. Like he's hardcore. Like for
yeah.
sure, it was way darker than I thought it was going to be. Like going into the movies, we have some dark stuff in it. I'm surprised it got the
Mhm.
G rating. Honestly, I thought they would
Yeah,
have got
if
the
it
PG
was
with this one.
yeah,
Yeah,
if it was made today, the same movie was
yeah,
made today, it's PG all the way. I mean,
yeah. Totally.
if Frozen and like movies like that are rated PG nowadays, like this one's
Hmm.
definitely going to get the same rating. Um,
Yeah.
I like the comedy relief with the gargoyles. I think they're a lot of fun.
They're
Um,
okay, but they were probably my least favorite thing about the movie, if I'm being honest. Like, I thought they
yeah,
were okay. I thought, Jason Alexander's trying, and I like Jason Alexander. I'm a Seinfeld guy. I like the dynamic between the three. Just for me, out of the other pieces of the movie, they were kind of the least piece for me, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? It was a thing I could have even just had not had at all, or at least just had like one of them. I don't know if I needed three of them. Like, if that makes sense.
right.
If it was just Jason Alexander,
Both of us
maybe
highly recommend it.
it's awesome. Hunchback is great. It's the dark horse of the series as far as like the one that people don't talk about, and it blew me away. Hunchback is awesome. It rules. It knocked my socks off when I went back to it. I thought it was great.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
almost feel like they added, I don't know, I'm sure the gargoyles were part of the script and the story the entire time, but
Mhm.
I almost feel like they're necessary if you're marketing this to
I know it's
kids.
necessary. It's just for me, it's the least interesting thing about the movie
Right.
because I
I know,
don't think
and I
they
get that.
stand
Yeah.
out like that.
Yeah.
So yeah. Oh, and again, I just thought if you remade this movie, I think you can eliminate those characters and you wouldn't really lose that much. Or just like I said, cut it down to one of them instead of three. I didn't need all three. But yeah,
Right.
like I think there's enough characters in this movie to carry the whole thing all together. But yeah, I get that he needs somebody to talk to up in the tower. Like I get that. But yeah, like
Well, I mean, and
it's
if
just for me.
you,
They just don't hit the levels of like Timon and Pumbaa or Sebastian
right,
or whatever.
right.
You know what I mean?
No, they're not there,
Because they
but
don't get
yeah,
not there.
I think we definitely needed some like comedic relief. And I
Sure.
think, to just because like we both have said, this movie is dark.
Hmm.
And man, I love the end of this movie when the little girl goes up and embraces
Oh,
Quasimodo, and in that moment of acceptance, like that's my boy
yeah.
Quasi.
Good
Um,
stuff. Yeah.
it's
Yeah, definitely.
man, the more we're talking about this now,
You
like
want to like
the
go
more
watch it again?
I'm liking it, and because
Yeah.
originally I had this here, like before the rewatch, I had it here.
Yeah.
After the rewatch, I have it here.
Yeah.
Where do
No,
you have it?
I have it at an A right now, but I'll tell you one thing, man. You give me like two or three more watches in this thing, and it's going to be like a top five Disney movie for me. I can see that. You know what I mean? Or like top six. You know what I mean? Like it. I don't know if I'd ever put it on the same level as like a Beauty and the Beast or a Little Mermaid, but like I would put it on that S level. Give me two more viewings in this movie, and it'll be
Yeah,
there. You know what I mean? I can see
I'm
myself really hitting that level eventually. Again, it's only because I hadn't seen it. It's the first time I see it in 25 years. But man, this movie was like the big surprise for me for this one. I loved it. I thought this movie was great.
yeah, and just to address this real quick, no, Emperor. This was technically like after the Renaissance, because they had
Yeah.
it ends with Tarzan, and then they did Fantasia 2000, which
Hmm.
was a thing, and then I believe they did Dinosaur, and
And
then
Emperor's New
they proceeded to
Quietly
Emperor's New
Accepted.
Groove.
articles that Tarzan is the end of the Disney Renaissance period. That Tarzan in '99 is the end of one. So no, we're not talking about Emperor's New Groove. Now, eventually, we could do a show where maybe we talk about some of those maybe like underappreciated Disney movies. You know, because I know a lot of people love Emperor's New Groove. I've actually never seen it. Fun fact: I've never sat down and watched it all.
Okay.
So that could be something where maybe we put together a list of like maybe Disney movies I haven't gotten around to, maybe stuff like Black Cauldron. You know, maybe we make like a little mini list of movies I go back and watch all the way through or something. You know, I don't think I've ever seen Oliver and Company all the way through. You know, things like that. Yeah, again, ones I just didn't grow up with, I didn't see, or maybe beyond my time period. You know, so maybe we might do a follow up episode, maybe in a month or two. Maybe we do like underseen Disney movies or something, or underseen gems or something like that.
Totally
I know you're always down to talk animation, so I mean, I know you'd be down.
Underseen gems. I mean, we could bring this one back up.
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, we talked about this, but I mean, we could put up maybe come up with a definitive list of maybe 5 to 10 movies that just don't get talked about, or maybe we're curious as to how they play now, stuff like Black Cauldron, or Oliver and Company or things like that. Just movies that don't get talked about a lot. Like maybe we could just talk about a few of those and just see how they hold up, how they work. Maybe some of those ones from like the '60s. I don't know. We could talk about. We'll figure something out. Yeah. We'll definitely do a follow-up episode where we'll talk about some of those type of movies for sure. Because there's some of those movies that either I haven't seen or I haven't returned to in a long time. So we could definitely do some kind of other Disney episode for sure. That's the thing about the show. We can do whatever we want. We can come up with whatever topic we want to do.
Yeah.
So we could definitely. So we could talk about maybe. I'm trying to think of the right wording. Some movies that don't get talked about enough in the Disney thing, or do they hold up? We could just do a Disney "Do they hold up?" Sort of thing.
That's a theory. Does it hold up?
And just a couple ones, maybe even the original 101 Dalmatians. I don't know. We could throw stuff like that in there. Like random movies like that people don't really talk about a lot, and we can just see if they work. So we'll do that. But anyways, we got to move it along because we got 3 more movies to talk about. We're getting near the end here, but we got Hercules, 1997, and
Hercules.
Yeah, and one that came up recently on, I believe was it Papa West's Top 64? Like he's a big fan of Hercules.
I believe so, yeah.
And beat Good Will Hunting in the first round. Yeah, surprisingly, kind of upset there. But yeah, Hercules is another one that I had not gone back to as far as seeing all the way through overall. I liked Hercules. I didn't love Hercules, but I liked it. There were things about the movie that I really loved, and there's some things about movies that I didn't love so much. To get my negatives out of the way, I don't like the muses or any of the stuff with the muses. I think it's really distracting and kind of out of place. I get that they're going for this like Motown thing, but it's weird tonally with the movie. I don't dig it. I don't vibe with the muse stuff. I think Meg,
the opening, the opening muse song. I think if they just did that and then didn't
right
them come back, then
yeah, every time they popped up in the movie, I was tempted to just fast forward through it. Honestly, I didn't even really.
I'm in agreement with you on that. We're actually agreeing on things today. I'm not sure how to feel about them.
I think Meg is kind of bland as a character, as a Disney heroine. I don't think she does a whole lot to stand out. They kind of try to do this twisty thing where she's sort of working with Hades, but it's like not really well defined, and she kind of comes out of nowhere. I don't think she's just very well developed. So I mean, she's got an interesting look. I mean, Minnie Driver is good as the voice acting, but I don't think Meg really stands out as a character because it's way more focused on Hercules than her. I think their love story is kind of incidental to the movie, to where like you didn't even really need the love story. Honestly, like I think the movie wouldn't change that much if she wasn't in it. Overall, other than the fact that he has to sacrifice himself for her, but when he did that, I didn't really feel that connection. If that makes sense. Like I wasn't really there.
You could easily insert one of his parents.
Yeah, you could do it with Zeus. Like if Zeus was down
there, more stakes if it was one of his.
Yeah, probably.
One of his earthly parents.
Oh yeah, right. Like the 2 earthly parents, if he took them hostage or something, the people who raised him. Yeah, that would have been interesting too. Yeah, I think that could have been a good twist. I love James Woods as Hades. Like he steals the show for me. I think he's great. I think he's awesome. Like I just love the way he. Again, the way he's so passive aggressive and kind of blasé about, just his casual nature is like really different, as far as the way to play the villain of just like, come on, man, I'm just trying to, do my thing over here, the sort of just the way he plays it. I think he's
What, this
probably the
one-haired
best.
one?
Yeah, he's really good. He's funny. You kind of dig him, but like I mean, I know he's again doing this plot where the way he goes about it, but the way he's kind of so casual about it, like I'm just gonna take your girl, just agree to this thing and we'll do our thing and I'll take over the world and I'll give you your powers back, like just the way he kind of just spitballs it out there is a lot of fun. And I really like Rip Torn as Zeus. I think he's a lot of fun too. Just I'd forgotten that
Yeah.
he was even part of the movie. But I think he's really great. This is around the time of like Men in Black, so he was really kind of blowing up around the time. And yeah, like again, I like the movie overall, but there's enough pieces of it that I wasn't really into to where it's never going to reach that upper echelon for me of Disney movies. But I get why some people like it. I really do. It's just not one of my favorites.
Yeah, I'm in agreement again. I'm actually very curious when people say this is their favorite Disney movie as to why.
Why? Yeah.
Because like yeah, to me it's just it's good. It is good. I do
Yeah.
I like the voice acting. I like the music.
Mm-hmm.
Other
Oh, Danny
than
DeVito's great as Phil. I thought
oh
he's
yeah,
really
yeah.
again, the side characters are the ones who really steal the show for me. In this one, it's not so much Hercules, it's not so much Meg. It's like Hades and Phil and Zeus are like the ones who really like kept me engaged the whole time. Like I think Danny DeVito is having a lot of fun with the role, and like I like his character of like this trainer, like a Mickey sort of a Mickey to a Rocky sort of thing. I think it's a fun dynamic that we hadn't really seen in some of these movies. But yeah, he's really great too.
Yeah. The one thing I didn't like about the movie is like in that ending sequence when Hercules gets his powers taken away. Just promise you won't hurt Meg.
Mm-hmm.
Hades isn't actually the one that hurts Meg.
It's
So
like
why
it's
does
more like
Hercules get his powers back?
collateral.
It's incidental.
Yeah, it's collateral damage. It's not.
Yeah,
He's
like
not intentional.
she did it to herself. So why is he getting his powers back because she, did this? Like if that was the case, then why didn't she just
Yeah.
say, like, "Hey, hit me in the face, and you can get your powers back"?
Yeah.
Ow, I'm hurt. Like
Yeah. Right.
it seemed like
Yeah.
lazy.
It's a little lazy. Yeah. And even the final battle with like the gods, I feel like it's resolved a little easily. You know what I mean? It's just like their chains get broken, they just overtake. Like I don't feel there's much of a struggle there. Like Hades wins for like 8 seconds and then before he gets overpowered again. It's like there's not really much there. Like at least with stuff, you go back and look at stuff like Ursula. Like she's not a giant Ursula for long, but she makes enough of an impact.
Right.
Where she like you think like she's got like the contract thing, and she takes over Trident. She gets the Trident. She blows up to like this big. It makes an impact. I mean, she's doing like the tornadoes and the whirlpools. Like it's pretty cool. She's like doing something where it seems threatening. And then like even Jafar again when Jafar is like on his he's really killing at the end of that movie. He's like the snake, like everybody's, there's even that sequence where like all the animals and everybody's like attacking him one by one, but he's taking them down like one by one, like kind of like Thanos does in Infinity War. He's like turning everybody into slinkies and stuff. He's just like one after another, just taking them down. Like it feels threatening. It feels like there's a thing there. I never really feel like Hades gets to that point where it feels like he's gonna win, like some of these other movies.
Right. Yeah.
Like I just never do. Even Gaston when he shanks, the beast, and he's like, come on, beast, like it feels like he's winning, Like I never feel like Hades is ever at the point where he's winning in this movie. Like I just never do. So and I think it just never hits crescendo.
Yeah, which kind of disappoints me because I think Hades is one of those that can hover around that number 3 for me as far as villains. I mean, I guess it really depends on what you're looking for in a Disney villain.
Yeah, but he's memorable.
He's funny, and yeah,
he's really good.
So it's like you got Jafar, who's kind of just this evil person that you don't want to see win. You got Frollo, who's this creepy, dark villain, and then you got Hades, who's just he's funny. Got those one-liners. It's different levels of Disney villains, and so I think it's what are you looking for in a Disney villain on this particular day, and that's going to be what you're looking for. So yeah. As far as our tier list, where are you putting Hercules?
I mean, I'm not putting it as low as Pocahontas. This is like a B level movie for me. I think B is a perfect place for it because
Yeah,
it's got enough
we're in
stuff to keep it at
agreement
that B level. Because again, the villain is good. Again, not, he doesn't get the pursuits, but like I think the character is so memorable. Like he definitely is a standout. Again, I like some of the side characters. I like Phil with Danny DeVito. Hercules himself is pretty good. He's interesting, enough. But I think Meg's kind of forgettable. It's just there's some things that keep it from reaching that upper echelon. But again, it's still a solid movie. Like I
again.
just don't see myself going back to this one,
Right.
for a really long time. This is not going to one I'm putting in the rotation, kind of like Hunchback. It's just not gonna be one of those for me personally.
This is. I think that might be a
Yeah,
good comparison. I haven't seen Avatar,
it's
so I don't know if that.
it's very flashy. I mean, again, it has a unique look with the golds and the yellows, and the blues. It's a very flashy movie. I mean, you can even look at the poster we have in the background right there. Like it's a different looking poster. It's very
Yeah,
very bright and colorful, which is kind of different from Hunchback. Hunchback is very dark, and then they went like extra colorful for Hercules. It's like, no, we really got to brighten this one up. Even Hades has like the bright blue hair, and all the kind of the fire hair and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, they definitely like wanted to brighten it up because I think they felt they went too dark with Hunchback. It's like let's turn it around a little bit. We gotta turn back a little bit and go a little brighter, and then they kind of have a blend in it with the next two movies. But yeah, that kind of leads us into. One that's big up there for a lot of people, Mulan. I know Jordan's listening.
yeah,
He's big on Mulan. Yeah, what do you think about Mulan, 1998? What's your history of that one?
yeah. This is another one I was late to. I don't know if just as an 8-year-old, I didn't want to watch a movie about a woman dressing up as a boy to go fight. I don't know. I don't have a memory of it as a child. But I don't know what the reasoning for that could be. Like, maybe my parents just didn't want to take me to the movies around this time. I don't know. So this was another one I came to pretty late, probably in my teenage years. And I think it's really solid. I like the story. I like the character of Mulan, and she as a daughter that wants to protect her father, and in doing so, fight for her country. I think the character of Mulan is really good. I think her her family lays like these expectations on her, and much like some of these other female characters, like that's
Right. Well,
not what I think for
she
myself.
has her place in this society of what she's supposed to do. She's supposed to just get married and have kids, you know what I mean, and raise a family and just have that family structure, the traditional family structure. And the men, as we see, are supposed to go off to battle, be warriors, and those things. It's like a very, this one's a lot more about family structure and societal structure and the roles that you play in that society. It's definitely more about that. And definitely kind of, it's a unique story with her, taking her dad's place, because she knows he's just not going to survive, any kind of battle. He's just not going to survive. Yeah, it's really, really interesting. It's not my favorite, Jordan. I'll just say that straight up off the
I'm
bat.
curious
Sorry
to hear
you.
his thoughts if it shows up tomorrow, because I know it's one of his
So
favorites.
yeah, so yeah, doing I know it'll be on one of those two shows for Jordan's 128. I get it. Yeah, I don't have any memories of seeing this one early either. I think these last three, Hercules, Mulan, and Tarzan, I know I didn't see in the theater. I'm like almost 100% on that. I think Hunchback might have been the last one. I have a vague memory of seeing Hunchback. I know I saw Pocahontas in the theater, but that was kind of the time where I was breaking off. I was getting more into like Star Wars and Batman, and a little more like sci-fi and like things like that. I was getting more into the my taste in movies because I was 12 at this time. So I was hitting puberty. You're maturing and you're kind of watching what you want to watch. You want to see some Indiana Jones, I want to see something a little more grown up. So I was still watching some animated stuff, but I kind of moved on to other things. So yeah, I think I saw it. I know I rented it or something. I'd seen it before, but it'd been a while. Again, it was good. It was solid. Is it going to be in my top 5 anytime soon? Probably not. I just don't have the connection to it. Not a whole lot of story connects. I think you know, it's got to stand out stuff. Mulan herself is good. Ming-Na Wen is good in the role. And again, just currently she's on Boba Fett and the Mandalorian. By the way, if you didn't know, she's Boba Fett's sidekick. But yeah, like Eddie Murphy is obviously awesome as Mushu. Like this was the precursor to Shrek. What he would do 2 years later with Donkey. Is a standout here, and it was nice to see him having a little bit of fun. Shan Yu, I feel like, is kind of a stereotypical villain. I mean, he's intimidating, but like I don't know if he does a whole lot to really like hit that upper echelon of villains. He's kind of just a big guy who wants to take over the people he perceives as weak. I don't think he does a lot to really like stand out as a villain overall. I mean, again, I think Miguel Ferrer does a good job with the actual role. But again, it's the lack of really memorable side characters for me, other than Mushu, that really like prevents this one from really hitting that upper stride. And the songs, well, they're good. I like the score more than I like the songs, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I like the sort of the Asian, inspired score more than I like a lot of the songs just aren't as memorable for me personally. Again, I'm not trying to crap on the movie. It's a good movie. I want to make that perfectly clear. But like, it's probably my lack of not seeing it as a kid. It's definitely a part of that. You know what I mean? Like the fact that I didn't do that. So yeah, but I mean, it's funny because I like a movie like Kung Fu Panda a lot. That kind of dives into that sort of sort of kung fu, sort of Asian inspired stuff. There's other things that I like kind of in that similar vein. But yeah, I had rewatched this one when the remake was coming out, just because I hadn't seen it in forever, and then I rewatched it for this one. Again, it's a solid watch. It's good. It's got a good pace. A lot of the sequences are really like the one battle sequence where she causes the avalanche, like is really gorgeous and a great sequence.
Yeah.
Like I like that stuff a lot. It's really good standout stuff. Again, some of the character interactions are good. It's lacking something just for me personally that really puts it over the edge. Just something that's just personal taste. So I get it but I get why people love this movie and why especially girls would connect to this. People, Asian would obviously, connect with this a lot. So I get it, and I get it. And again, it's a really good movie. I would put this in like A tier. I think it's good. I just think it lacks something for me personally to put it up into that S tier. Personally.
Yeah. Whoa. What? I'm unsure where this question is. But anyway.
Yeah.
Mulan. I really enjoy Mulan. I do. I enjoy the music. I think Make a Man Out of You is, if we were doing like a Disney song tier list.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I think it's upper echelon Disney songs for sure. Yeah. That's definitely a standout one.
Even some of the like Reflection, I think is a beautiful song. The Girl Worth Fighting For when they're traveling, I really enjoy that one. These are songs that I don't mind listening to. Like I previously worked in a daycare, and
so you hear the songs on just on the speaker occasionally.
This is if we were playing music, like it would be, if it's not your generic kid songs, I was putting Disney music on, and these were on the playlist because
rather put on like a Disney Spotify like Disney movie songs thing over like some other kids music. That's for damn sure over Baby Shark. That's for damn sure. So yeah, I'll listen to this stuff any day.
Hold on. I'm unsure why you're asking that question.
Why he asked a question of why we don't say the N-word on the podcast. I think it's fairly obvious.
No, he said you want to see, and I'm unsure why you're.
Why are you asking that? Like, you can. We might block you and ban you, but you can if you want to. But Jacob's going to block you pretty quickly if you do, because we don't want that in our comments in our chat. No.
Yeah. So
I don't know why you'd want to.
But yeah.
But that's your preference.
Right. Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah. Back to Mulan. You mentioned A tier, and I'm right there. Like I have it. Like where I think I have Hunchback like a high A tier. I have Mulan as kind of like a lower A tier.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've been in agreement on a lot of those.
Most of the stuff, yeah. And Here's another wild card I had. So as we get into this final movie with Tarzan, this was another wild card because I don't have any memory of watching this all the way through. So this might have been my actual first full time watch for Tarzan,
Okay.
because my only memory of seeing any of this movie is I have a memory of we went to Camp Wilderness at Disney World in Orlando, which is like the Disney campground, back in like 2001 or 2002. And they had this like fire pit bonfire sort of area, like a lounging, with a bunch of these chairs. You could bring like your lawn chairs, and they had a projector, like an outdoor projector. And I remember them playing Tarzan on the projector because I think it was one of the newer movies at the time, or it just come on DVD or something. So I remember watching like maybe a half an hour of it or something before we moved on to something else. That's my only memory of seeing this movie. I didn't know. I don't think I'd ever seen this. So this might have been the one out of the 10 where it was a first time watch, like a full watch. Because I know I'd seen the other ones all the way through at least once. But yeah, this was the wild card as far as a first time watch. Tarzan is interesting because Tarzan, it's got that deep canvas style of animation that was big at the time, with like the sequences where he's doing like the skating on the, the vines and stuff. It was another new version of sort of this computer, 2D animation. It's all right. It's okay. It's all right. That's about as high as I go as Tarzan. You know what I mean? It's a Tarzan movie. It's probably one of the better versions of a Tarzan movie. I know it's better than some of those like 50s and 60s movies they did live action back in the day with like Tarzan the Ape Man, stuff like that. Back in the day, I don't know if you've ever seen any of those. They're very strange movies. These old school movies where it's literally like some guy with like long hair and like a toga going like "Be Tarzan, you Jane," like it's very very wooden stuff. There's a whole bunch of those movies. So I would say it's probably about the best version of a Tarzan movie you could probably do. But to me, it just made me want to watch Jungle Book. The whole movie. I was just wanting to watch the Jungle Book and watch Mowgli because it's like almost the same thing, especially for the first half when he's like a kid.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just want to watch Mowgli with Baloo, and Bagheera and King Louie. Like I just wanted to go watch that because I hated Rosie O'Donnell in this movie. Like I thought she was obnoxious as hell as her character. I thought she was awful. I liked the mother character. I'm forgetting her voice. I need to look it up real quick. I know it was somebody famous, but let me see here if I can find it. But I'm sorry, Minnie Driver. I misspoke earlier. Was not in Hercules. She's in this movie. I'm sorry, I misspoke.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it's Glenn Close does the mom voice,
yeah.
and that makes sense. Really good. I mean, it's Glenn Close. Like she's awesome. Like she's definitely one of the standouts. And Lance Henriksen, which I'm an Aliens fan, so it was nice to look up and see that Lance Henriksen did the voice of Kerchak. The kind of the silverback, the male gorilla. I thought he's really good. I texted you and said I could have sworn the guy who plays the villain Clayton was Patrick Stewart when I first heard it. I was like, oh, I forgot Patrick Stewart did a voice in this movie because it sounds exactly like him, but it's not. It's this guy Brian Blessed. And I was like, no, he's doing Patrick. Is he doing Patrick Stewart? Like his impression? I swear to God, it sounds like Patrick Stewart. So I was completely confused, like halfway through, and I had to Google it. I was like, what? So it would have been better as Patrick Stewart, I'll tell you that. But I mean, yeah, the villain's kind of whatever. He's just a human villain. Shoots first, asks questions later. It's kind of bland. It's like a more bland version of the dude from Pocahontas. Yeah, I mean, it's just got kind of forgettable stuff all around for the most part. Not a whole lot that stands out. Again, other than the Phil Collins soundtrack, but you have to be all into Phil Collins. If you're not all in on Phil Collins, you're not going to like this movie because it's a lot. I thought some of the stuff was better than the other stuff. Score was okay. Some of the songs were all right. Not great. Tarzan's not great. It's okay. But it's not great. It's okay.
See this is where we differ again.
All right.
Because I love Tarzan. Like I think.
All right.
I think the opening sequence is really good. Kind of
the best thing about the stuff with the family coming over and like the shipwreck and like all that stuff was very good. I'll say that the opening kind of prologue I thought was great, and it was a good way to start the movie. I'll say that.
And yeah. I really enjoy the soundtrack. I think this is my favorite Disney soundtrack just overall. I think every song in this movie is great, and they all serve a purpose too. Like they all are, they're like telling a story while we're going through like these montages, like the Son of Man sequence, the "You'll Be in My Heart" song. I think the trash in the camp sequence with when they find the camp.
Right.
I think that's really fun. I will agree about Rosie O'Donnell. I think they could have maybe did a different voice casting.
Well, to me, I only like two Rosie O'Donnell movie performances. They're not definitely not this one. I like her in A League of Their Own. I think she serves a great purpose in that movie, and I like her in Harriet the Spy as Gully. I think she's really good in that movie. I don't know if you've seen Harriet the Spy, but yeah, it's a Nickelodeon movie. But I think she's really good in that movie. She's
Okay.
completely miscast. She's completely miscast in the Flintstones. She's done some other movies where she's not good. Yeah, I just think she's at an 11 here, and she needs to scale it back a little bit. She's almost doing like a caricature of Rosie O'Donnell, and it's a little grating after a while. She's going too much. Like, scale it back just a little bit. You ain't Gilbert Godfrey. Like, just relax.
Right.
Let's bring it back a little bit. Yeah.
But no, I really, this is one that I can put on rotation. I do think the soundtrack for me brings it up. The story is just it's like you said, it does have similarities to Jungle Book, which is actually I have Jungle Book in my top 10 of Disney.
Yeah,
I love Jungle Book.
It's a really good movie. Yeah, no, really good.
I think Jungle Book is the only movie that has a really good animated and live action remake version.
Yeah, the 2016 one, that's probably one of the best remakes they ever did. The Jon Favreau movie is probably the best one, honestly. Yeah, if you have to kick it out there, probably. Yeah.
So I see the comparisons. If I had to choose, I would go Jungle Book. But yeah, the soundtrack definitely brings it up. I'm a pretty big Phil Collins fan. Like, I don't go out of my way to listen to him, but when he comes on, like, I'm not gonna press skip. I'll listen to the song.
like a casual Genesis fan.
yeah. Like, if it's a Phil Collins or Genesis song, like, okay, yeah, I'll listen to it.
Yeah, I get it.
But yeah, and then I love the heartwarming moment at the end with Kerchak when he finally calls him son. Like, I really enjoy that moment. And like, because you can understand where Kerchak is coming from with Tarzan. Like,
he lost one of his kids, one of his sons, to the cheetah or whatever it is, the cheetah's tiger, whatever it was, and then like, she just brings home this human baby, and she's like, oh, it's gonna be our son. He's like, that's never gonna be my son. I lost my son. Like, my son's gone, and like, you can't just bring this kid. And like, again, you understand he's not really a villain. You understand where he's coming from. He's just like a pissed off dad, and again, he's more of like, I'm not gonna say a villain. He's more of an antagonist, I think, than the human antagonist, because the human one's kind of forgettable. Again, he's just sort of this dude, who's just like, out hunting or whatever. It's forgettable at best. But yeah, he's more interesting as far as, like, again, not a villain, but like a sort of a challenge for the hero to overcome, sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I like all the stuff between Tarzan and Jane. I think, that sequence when they're being chased by the baboons or whatever they are. I think that's really good. And I like the jungle setting. I think Tarzan is a really good Disney movie, and I think it's a solid ending to the Renaissance. So,
and I will say, visually, it looked great. I popped this on. I watched a lot of these on my big screen, and this is one of the better looking ones as far as, like, it's very visually stunning. Like I said, that opening sequence with, like, the shipwreck and stuff looked great, and it's got that new style of animation that they started playing around with in this movie. But yeah, like, I mean, it's a great looking movie. That's definitely what hooked me. And there's some good moments, some good scenes. I like Tarzan and Jane when they hold their hands up to each other, and that's how he kind of figures out, that she's kind of like him. There's good sequences there. Just for me, the whole package is a little wonky for me. Like, it just doesn't reach that echelon. So, I would put it on like a C level with Pocahontas, but you might be more of like an A or something like that. If I
I
had to
am an,
guess.
yeah. So if you're a C, I'm an A. Can we compromise on a B?
B. Yeah, we'll compromise on a B. Yeah, right around Hercules. Yeah, I'm down with that.
All right.
So yeah, there you go. So that's kind of our final things up in that S tier. Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King. I don't think a whole lot of people are going to argue about that. They're the cream of the
No.
crop. Best of the best. Yeah, on the next tier we have Rescuers Down Under, which I think is one of the most underrated and overlooked of the movies. I think we at least agree upon that. It's one that doesn't get talked about for whatever reason.
Yes.
I think it's at least
Yes.
underrated, as far as being a really good movie that nobody talks about. Hunchback was the big surprise, I think, for both of us, and really knocked our socks off as far as one that should be talked about more and might eventually make that sort of S tier. I think if you had to have a top 5 and round it out, Hunchback's the closest. And yeah, Mulan, which I know a lot of people have a lot of affection for. Not me personally, but I get it. But Jacob's higher than me on that one. And then yeah, sort of in our lower tiers, we have Hercules, Tarzan, and then at the bottom we have Pocahontas. Again, Pocahontas is not terrible. It's well done overall. It just doesn't have those memorable things as some of those other ones do for us. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah. All right.
Any of these I would be happy to put on for kids, and I would not qualm about like having them on in the background, if they wanted to watch some movies. You know what I mean? I would not if they wanted to watch one of these, pretty much any of them, I'd be fine. You could do way worse than this, trust me, like Frozen. Right. You do way worse, as far as overall putting these on. So some of those classic ones. So yeah, Disney Plus. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad these are all available for everybody to see. I think, like I said, I think everybody kind of agrees with us about that big upper echelon. But some good surprises there, too. If you haven't gone back to Rescuers Down Under, give it a shot. It's definitely different, but it's a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. Like we said, Hunchback was awesome and really was like the killer surprise of this one that more people should talk about. And yeah, overall, it's a good string of movies, man. They had a good run. Good run in the 90s. Every movie's unique and different. Everybody has something for, depending on what you're looking for in one of these movies. They all are standouts. They all have a good, unique feel to them. It was an interesting period for Disney, for sure, that I don't know if they've ever been able to really replicate. Some people say that the run where they had like Princess and the Frog and Tangled and stuff like that kind of came close. And then with the financial hit of Frozen, obviously, like whether or not you like that movie or not, like that was kind of the pinnacle of that. But yeah, I mean, you could say that between that and on the other side of Pixar was kind of up and coming around this time with Toy Story and Bugs Life, and they were starting to emerge as the whole new field of Disney. But yeah, it was a really interesting time in the 90s, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, this doesn't even include like the DuckTales movie or a Goofy movie, which are also
which were technically a subsection called Disney Toons, which is why they didn't they didn't come up with this, and there was kind of a subset of Disney. That made these, so they're not considered as far as like the 90s big theatrical things, they're not really considered the 90s Renaissance. But yeah, they were around this time, and I know a lot of people love a Goofy movie, and some of those, I really like the DuckTales Treasure of the Lost Lamp movie. I'm actually a fan of that movie. But yeah, I watched that one a lot. Yeah, there's some other good hidden gems in there, but yeah, this was the our discussion of the main 10. It was fun, man. I enjoyed going back and watching some of these. Like I said, especially Hunchback. Damn, damn, son. Yeah, good stuff. glad we did. I at least got that out of this, so that was a good shot.
Nice.
For sure. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, this was fun, and next week we're just gonna talk about movies because it's kind of just gonna be a wild card show. We don't really have anything. Which is good because I'm going to be job searching this upcoming week. And
gotcha. So
I can.
You happen to watch in between, job searchings and things, or whatever you might put on streaming or a Blu-ray or something, just whatever you're watching. Yeah, I'm just gonna. I've got my Note app, and I'm just gonna keep track of some random things I watch. But I might try to work in some stuff that I've got a bunch of unopened Blu-rays over there. Maybe I'll pop in something, or if I'm just scrolling around on HBO Max or something, I see something interesting I've never seen. Maybe just pop something on. For this, I've got a few already. I've got one or two theatrical things I've seen. A couple of things I prepped for some other shows. Maybe I can go more in depth on. Maybe I'll talk about one or two of the animal movies I'm watching from Animals Attack. Again, I'm only going to talk about ones that if there was something that really was like really good or like really like recommendable, you know what I mean? I'm just going to talk about stuff like that. Just So, like, I think we'll try to keep it positive. I'm not going to talk about, like, if I watch something really bad. There's no point. It's like, I don't need to bring up Shakma on the show. It's fine. It's all right. But, if I see something that's a nice little gem, or if I pop up one of those Blu-rays and something really kicks out, we'll highlight it on the show. So I'll just keep track of a few things. And, we'll just be kind of a loosey-goosey wild card episode. Maybe we'll go down a couple of tangents just talking about, movies in general. We always kind of, that'll be more of a loose episode where we just kind of have a little fun, just casually have a little chat about some stuff. So we'll do that next week, and then we'll come back the week after with our, we're calling it our Jurassic podcast. So we'll do another franchise deep dive, and we'll be talking about obviously it's relevant with Jurassic World Dominion. So we're gonna give it a little space so Jacob go see it. I've already seen it once. I might go see it again. We'll see. But we'll be talking about the whole franchise, and we'll do the same thing. We'll just kind of go chronologically and talk about the history of the franchise and talk about the 6 movies, man. Build up to it, and you got some first time watches coming up for those. So those should be interesting. Yeah,
it's funny. I've watched the first one. It's been a while though, so I'm probably going to rewatch that one as well. And then I watched Jurassic World and Fallen Kingdom, but I've never actually seen The Lost World and Jurassic Park 3. So those will be the first time watches. It'll be fun. Maybe this.
Not spoiling anything too much. I'm a defender of Jurassic Park 2 and 3, of Lost World and third one. I think they're really good movies, like really solid entertainment. I still think Spielberg brings it in the second one. Again, not as hard as the original. I fully admit that. But I still think it's a fun movie. And Jurassic Park 3 is a really tight 90-minute fun movie. It's the shortest of all the ones, but it's movie tight. It's awesome, and it's a Joe Johnston movie, the guy who did The Rocketeer, and more recently Captain America: The First Avenger, and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. He's got definitely a sense of adventure and things. He's got a good eye for that stuff. So maybe it'll be a surprise. We'll see, but I'll be interested to hear your thoughts of the first time watch on some of those for sure.
Yeah, we'll be interested to see what Jordan has to say about our discussion on that too, because I know he's pretty high on the franchise. So it'll be a fun one. We're excited to watch them.
We'll talk about we'll just go in order and kind of talk about them, one by one.
Kind of like we did on this episode.
Yeah, just our history of our history with the franchise as we talk about kind of our backgrounds and where we're coming from and our love of the movie. So we'll be doing that, and then we've got some cool stuff coming up after that involving some director showcases that we're going to do, and I've got an idea. I'm gonna run by Jacob after the show for a show after that. That should be really interesting. Another decade sort of centric thing that I think could be interesting. A little bit of a game aspect to it, so I'll run by him, and we'll go from there. So a lot of fun stuff planned for it. Yeah, and then I'm sure maybe next month we'll work in another horror franchise or something. Just to play around.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about blind spots with me, horror is a good place to start.
There you go. Well, I'm guiding you on your journey, sir, as we kind of, you're being the casual fan that's getting into it. But I'm happy to do that because I'm the mega fan, but I'm always happy to talk horror with casual fans. And it's always interesting that somebody who's not a mega fan coming into horror kind of starting that journey. You know what I mean? It's always interesting to see where they come from, what they think. So, we'll pick something, down the road, pick some kind of franchise to talk about too. That should be fun.
Yeah.
And like I said, maybe another idea for a show. We'll talk about some underseen or under talk about Disney movies at some point. We'll just pull some, maybe come up with a list and some stuff we need to watch, stuff that's available on Disney Plus, that people don't talk about a lot. Maybe we'll revisit some movies we haven't revisited in a long time, we're seeing for the first time. We could each make our own lists and come up with a definitive, list of movies to talk about. So we'll figure out something else Disney centric later for sure. Definitely. Plenty to talk about there.
For sure, yes. And I brought it up to the guys earlier today. I'm gonna start a new series. It's gonna be They're just gonna be short videos, 5 to 10 minutes. It's gonna be called My Favorite Movie. So if you want to come on the channel and just gush about your favorite movie for 5 to 10 minutes and kind of let us know why it's your favorite movie, your history with the movie, what it is you love about the movie, just let me know, and we'll make that happen. Again, that's not something that has to be a set day. I mean, if it's a short 5 to 10 minute video and we've got 5 to 10 minutes, then let's talk about these movies that we love, because that's what this channel is about. That's especially what this podcast is about. I can't say the channel itself is all about that, because we have done a worst movies of all time.
I I can't promise you I'll only talk for 10 minutes about aliens, but I'll try to keep it short. Because I
Yes.
don't make that a secret of what mine is. But yeah,
If
there
it
you go.
goes more than 5 to 10 minutes, that's fine.
Well,
But
I understand
it's
you want it's a short form content thing. We'll maybe try to cap it at 15 or something max. But yeah,
yeah,
we'll keep it at the clock. But yeah, I get what you're going for that. Starting something just super short. Yeah, just reaching out to the community, have somebody come on, talk for 10, 15 minutes tops. Just about their history of the movie, why they love it so much, and just lay it out for the audience. And just gush about their movie for 10, 15 minutes. I think it'd be a lot of fun. Yeah, definitely. Hmm.
yeah. So, and as always, we've got tournament fights, tier ranker fights on the channel. I believe tomorrow, Jordan Anderson is going to do his first installment of his top 128. So that's going to be
Yeah.
a lot of fun. And then
And
on
I'm
Tuesday,
hosting Tuesday night. We're gonna go a little later because I am working that night, so we're probably not gonna start till around 10. Just letting everybody know. But yeah, just because I'm hosting. Well, I mean, Jordan will still be my co-host. Obviously, we're just gonna flip roles. I'm just gonna take lead on the. We're doing a When Animals Attack tournament fights of all these animal attack movies, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm very excited about that to showcase some of these movies, and I'm sure half of them will be me just selling it for 15 seconds at the beginning and then you voting on it because it'll be like I haven't seen that but I like what you're selling me. I'll vote for that. So I mean there's gonna be familiar stuff on there, a little Jaws, a little Jurassic Park, a little King
oh
Kong,
yeah,
things like that. Some familiar stuff, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, things like that. There will be movies that y'all
ooh,
have seen for sure. So but we're mixing in some little Night of the Lepus, little alligator, little like I was watching Shockma, little Monkey Shines, just a couple of wild cards in there, Anaconda, Lake Placid, some good stuff, Deep Blue Sea,
hmm.
interesting things in there. So yeah, hopefully it'll still be a fun show. I will try to make it as fun as possible and
Yeah,
entertaining.
it should
Definitely.
be a fun. If anything, we will get a lot of recommendations. So,
Will you?
and that's
I don't know.
always
We'll
fun.
see. Some of them are not the greatest, but rewatching some of them a lot of them are available on Tubi. That should tell you something. So
Everyone's
for the ones
that,
I'm rewatching, Day of the Animals and Monkey Shines. A lot of these are available on Tubi, so that'll tell you like maybe how high quality they are, but they're fun. But some of them are very pulpy, schlocky fun, So that's never a bad thing.
we're gonna do an episode just on movies that are only available on Tubi at some point.
Tubi,
But
and we pick 5 movies we found on Tubi just to watch. I watched The Stepfather on Tubi. It's like a horror movie from the 80s. It was
I think
interesting.
I've
But
seen
yeah,
a remake of that.
yeah, the remake is not good. The original one is very good with Terry O'Quinn. You should watch the original. But
Okay.
yeah, Tubi's an interesting one, that's for sure. But I like it. So yeah, that's what
So
we got
yeah,
coming up. We got some fun topics coming up, man. We're gonna showcase it. Be good times. We're having a good time, man. I don't care how many people are on. We have a good time. If we get 10, 15, 20, I don't care. We're having a good time here on
right.
Podcast About
That's what
Movies.
it's about. So,
We're
but if you
fun.
did like what you saw, hit that like
Yeah.
button. Um, that's always
Hit
it's
the
always nice to
subscribe
do.
button, hit the bells so you get the notification when we go live because sometimes it's not the same time every week. It depends on what our personal lives and our schedules are looking like. So we try to be consistent at least once every weekend. We try to bring you the show. But yeah, so please give us a like and subscribe. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. So with that, I have been Jacob Barber. That is still Austin Howell.
I can't get used
And
to pointing away.
right,
This
yeah.
way. This way. Okay.
We will see you next week when we talk about movies once again.